mouthful of chocolate cake. Good morning.
Perfect timing. Well, greetings.
I know I tried to get it down,
but
it wasn't going down fast enough. That's what she said. That's what he said. Good morning, everybody. Welcome, Andre. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing excellent. It's been a busy day so far, and there's no signs of that stopping.
Sorry, took a drink there. Also joining us this morning is Script Doctor. How are you?
I'm doing well. I already ate lunch before the show, so I don't have to worry about the mouthful stuff. But I've got a busy evening later, so I'm looking forward to all the exciting stuff that's happening there.
I can hear Six in the background going, God damn it, Tom, you had chocolate cake for breakfast? At least it wasn't worse.
Well, cake is generally not fit for breakfast.
No, but, you know, there's eggs and stuff in it.
Yeah, use that excuse.
There's more sugar than eggs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and sugar is the killer. Like, yeah, everyone.
What's the difference if I eat chocolate cake or a bowl of cereal? It's still a bowl of sugar.
Well, it depends on the cereal. I mean, if the cereal is full of sugars, maybe that's not the cereal it should be having. Maybe replace it with grain.
Like bran flakes or Fiber One, and unrefined sugar would be better for you than refined sugar. Like brown sugar, unrefined brown sugar is about the same price as a bag of like that cheap big bag of refined sugar. So,
but brown sugar,
or
why does it taste so good?
Better yet, just grain instead of sugar. That'll do wonders.
What am I, a fucking horse?
Well, horses generally ain't that obese.
But I've seen them eat chicks too. Anyway, good morning, everybody. We'll see if anybody else joins us this morning, but it is Wednesday. We are here. Yes, Brown Sugar by the Rolling Stones. Good morning, everybody in the chat. Hopefully you're doing well. I see some regulars filing in here. Please share out the link and hit that like button if you haven't already. We'd appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. Please do.
We got some Lord of the Rings business to discuss. Dan Lin is no longer in the running at DC, which is interesting.
He will be sadly missed in that race.
Not likely. So we might talk a little bit about that, but other than that, it's Labor Day week in Hollywood, so not a lot going on. So,
well, I'm sure there's a lot going on within the halls of Amazon where they should be freaking, running round in circles, and generally be panicking. But we'll get into that. Joining us to get into that is Super Omnicron, who is here joining us. We're also joined by Six, of course, helping us out behind the scene and modding. We're joined by the other mods.
Natasha in there.
Yeah, Malice Flair is here. BGC is here. Nephilim is here. Carl Megas Mage Sky. I'm sorry I pointed that out, but and we have John Platt is here. We have Etienne Falardeau is here. Running with Sisters is here. Also, always good advice. And the Cheese Factor is here.
Megs is here.
Max also wants some cake. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the problem with talking about cake. It may not be the best thing for you, but if you talk about it, everyone will want some Napoleon's cake now. I want to put the idea in my mind.
Well, we got some super chats, so let's grab a few of those. We got Dark King, who's sending in $2 Australian. Says, Tolkien's appendices continues to plague us, eh?
I believe it was his appendicitis, actually.
I was going to say, this is more like based on his appendix than it is his appendices, but yeah.
No, he spelled appendicitis.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's what it says, appendicitis. That's the
got
joke.
I got it. Andrew Adams is now a member. Thank you for that.
Welcome.
And then we got Plan Our Aspect, who says, friendly FYI, Toby's interest in No Way Home is the same.
Is it? Okay, because when I... are you sure about that? Well, I guess it would be, but when I saw it in theaters, because he's probably referring to...
You know, when you explained it, I'm like, I don't remember seeing his face until he crawls through the hole either.
Yeah, because that's like the whole thing, that you just see his body, and then he has to like duck down and crawl through the thing, and that's when you see his face in the original theatrical cut. But I'm convinced that here you see his whole him, face and everything coming through right away. I'm almost positive that it's a different shot in this
It might be the same
extended
shot, but they might have
overlong
color
cut.
corrected it so you can see.
I was going to say different lighting. Yeah.
Maybe, but I'm almost positive that it's a different shot. But or at least it's not. Could be the same shot, but something's different about it. Because I remember when I was watching it, I was like, "Hang on, we're seeing his face right away, from like the second he arrives. Like there's no mystery, there's no fanfare. Like the Andrew Garfield, that was the same shot, exactly the same shot. But this thing right here, it's like the mystery was removed. I'm almost positive.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's one of those Mandela effect of things.
Yeah, maybe, because it would be one that appeared as I saw it then, so it would be a very recent one. But yeah.
Big Daddy MRI gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much. Looks like Vizarel, Ty H, Ben Peterson, Dahawk666, and Hypergiver2. Congratulations, guys. And thank you, Big Daddy MRI, for the very generous donation of Super Chats there. We appreciate that. Then we got Dr. Dr. Longdongler, who sends it a thumbs up. Please hit the thumbs up yourself to let us know that you enjoy the program. We need those to help let the algorithm know that we're any good too. Dearest sends in a $3 lemon character, raising both his thumbs up. Thank you for that, Dearest. We appreciate that. Then we got Dark Winter here, who says, so when is someone going to point out that Amazon that rewriting Galadriel means the entire Lord of the Rings doesn't happen?
I think the Tolkien scholars said that, and that's why they weren't allowed back in the room.
Probably, among other things, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about how this is not really Galadriel. I mean, in a lot of ways. So, I don't know. I haven't seen the whole show yet, but... Yeah.
And also, here's the thing to point out, because as Dark Winters is saying here, so when is someone going to point out to Amazon that rewriting Galadriel means the entire Lord of the Rings doesn't happen? Here's the thing. This is the thing. It's very natural to think that this is a prequel, so it has to line up with the Lord of the Rings, but it isn't. This is a competing Lord of the Rings. It's legally separate. This is not a prequel. This is a completely separate thing. It's kind of like the competing James Bond movies that you had like in the 80s, where you had like the main Eon series.
Oh, and then,
but then someone waited and they made Never Say Never Again, which was like another James Bond movie. It had Sean Connery and everything, but still the two were not the same. Well, this is the same as that. The Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power, is not a prequel to the Rings, to the proper Rings. So they can basically do whatever the hell they want. They're trying to deceive the audience into thinking it's a prequel. But really, they can change whatever, because the future is unwritten. You know what you can say for 100% certain about the future here? It does not lead up to the Lord of the Rings, because they don't have the rights to it.
That's true.
Which to me is the most incredible thing here. Like, this is the one thing that I just cannot fathom with this whole thing, with the whole Rings of Power. They don't have the complete rights. They only have the rights to this particular subset of it. And I can understand them wanting to work with that. But then you have Warner, and they have the rights, the full rights to the actual Lord of the Rings and everything that goes with it. And they're sticking with those rights. They're making the War of the Rohirrim just to keep on to those rights. So why the hell would Amazon invest this much into a competing product that can never encroach on the original that people actually like in any way, shape, or form?
It really just seems like Amazon kind of got swindled, and when they realized they were swindled, decided to run with it.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I'm thinking too.
I think that's what it was, because again, the previous rights holders to Lord of the Rings, whose name is escaping me at the moment, before Embracer took over, they were not very good with handling those rights and selling them off to various outlets. And I think what ended up happening is that they screwed Amazon, and then Amazon's like, well, okay, well, we got this, so what can we do with this? And then through a series of, I suppose, interesting networking, and with J.J. Abrams and other people looking to be accepting pitches for what they can do with this era, they landed on those two acolytes of JJ's, and we got this preamble to the forging of the rings. Because here's the thing that bothers me with the premise of the Rings of Power, is that your first episode should be the act of forging, like, that first ring, or at least the plans of saying, I'm going to make these rings so I can
It's going to be
control.
season 5.
But that's going to be the end. Exactly. We're going to get all this preamble that's going to have nothing to do with the actual Rings of Power, and by the time we get there, it's too late. We don't get any chance to savor into it. It's kind of like the show Smallville, where it's like, oh, it's the pre-years of Clark Kent, but we're going to make sure that he denies every call to action so that he can never be Superman until we get to the very last episode, which will be 10 years after the fact. It's like, no, that's you're wasting people's time at this point. You're not telling a story. You're just occupying time. You're white noise with flashy colors.
Yeah, indeed. And someone else who I'm sure can weigh in on that is Mr. Chato. How's it going?
Fine. I'll weigh in on anything you want, even without knowing what you're talking about. I'll fake it. I didn't hear the preamble. Hello, gentlemen.
Well, the preamble that you can chime in on, because I have to drop out for a few minutes here, is why would Amazon knowingly make a Lord of the Rings spin-off when they don't have the rights to the proper Lord of the Rings? They can never have them because their competitor has them and intends to still use them.
That's the question. I have pondered that.
I think Script was right. They got swindled. I think that they thought they were buying the rights to the Lord of the Rings, and then they realized they're not. And then
I think after the money was transferred, that's what they realized they're not.
And then that's why the Salzants company gets involved then. And then even they were completely lying through their teeth with them too, I think, as well, in that situation. And that's why they're announcing, like, yeah, we're selling the rights.
Well,
$2 billion.
A couple of things. Number one, when you're talking about someone with the amount of cash that Bezos has, that they're very anxious to buy that antique, even at the expense of getting an expert to check the
authenticity of it.
The authenticity of it. They just want it so badly. My son, who's a mechanic, is dealing with someone who bought a 1972 Datsun 240Z, and they were so anxious to pay the big bucks for it, didn't realize how mechanically bad it was. So my son is trying to now fix it for him. And again, you get so anxious to want to get it. Now, he didn't pay like a ridiculous amount of money per se. It was something like $250 million for the rights to use whatever it was that they had decided. It's the production values and everything else that they dumped the money into. That was the stupid part, really. Why not just do 1 year of Xena Warrior Princess and then see how it goes, and then start dumping money into it? That's the part that I think is stupid.
Yeah, I mean, because you can justify an excuse for an expensive pilot, but for every episode to be the cost of a pilot, and still have the short turnaround time that apparently it has, is just burning cash or laundering it to someone else somehow.
Well, what do you think? I mean, $250 million for what they purchased doesn't sound so bad to me.
Well, I mean, if you're saying, like,
and that was just for the rights, though.
It was just for the rights.
Just for the rights, yeah. Well,
and then they could have spent like I said, Witcher money, and just like done something with it. It didn't,
Yeah,
you know,
played the field, so to speak, to figure out what would be the most profitable angle to take through, a single compressed season of maybe I would say original characters.
House of Dragons cost way less than that, and it looks
Oh, it's a
fantastic.
fraction. Yeah.
But it also has recognizable actors in it, which is also one of my arguments. Is I don't understand the lack of show business on the side of so many of these products and things that people are producing. At least Obi-Wan had what's his name in it, a recognizable actor, which
Well, Ewan McGregor and then Liam
Yeah.
Neeson showing up at the very end.
yeah,
And that's funny you
show
bring that up.
business. That's show business. That's part of the fun of doing. This is why the old movies, had Robert Mitchum and Jimmy Stewart, and they were just, trying to, they were shooting every single bullet that they possibly can to get, people into their seats. And here they have Lord of the Rings. You're going to spend billions of dollars. You couldn't have even gotten like one of the Doctor Who guys in it. Like, seriously, that's like the dumbest.
No, that's something we were talking about last night, Paul. Was like, look at Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, and I'm sure this was their thinking on this, because the original Superman, they just wanted somebody who looked like Superman. They didn't care about getting a star for him, but because they already had Marlon Brando and they already had Gene Hackman.
Right.
When you go to the Lord of the Rings, what did Peter Jackson do? I'm sure, and I'm not sure that this is his actual thought process, but I can imagine his thought process was, not a lot of people know what the Lord of the Rings do, or at least at this point, I'm not sure if they do. And I'm going to have a hard time convincing a lot of people that this, world exists. But what I can do is get a lot of really good veteran actors, character actors, and not movie stars, but fairly well-known actors, to where when you see them, you can kind of accept them because you know them. And that's the part that you kind of, relate to.
No.
While you're getting into this vast world, right?
You're just describing show business.
You have Ian McKellen, you have... Yeah. All these guys as far as the veterans, and you got, Sean Astin and Elijah Wood, who have been, basically veteran kid actors in their own right, but they weren't A-list movie stars like Leonardo DiCaprio, is my point.
No, but they had John Rhys Davies, who was a little bit bigger than Ian McKellen at the time, just on the publicly side of things, because Ian
and you had
McKellen
Liv Tyler and stuff, who was huge at the time.
Mm-hmm. Like I'm sure Jackson threw out this notice to a whole bunch of people, and like the woman who played Galadriel,
Kate
Blanchett was desperate to cosplay in it. She would have done it for no money. She wanted elf ears. She talked about just what a phenomenal opportunity it was to live in this world, and Elrond, was fresh off the Matrix.
Yep, exactly.
Elrond was fresh off. Christopher Lee, who was
another veteran, right?
Oh my God,
he was considered like the most beloved B actor for all those Hammer films and things of that nature.
Ian McKellen.
Ian McKellen, the big stage guy, but he kind of got more of a notice from playing Magneto in X-Men. That's
I was gonna say his was hot off of Magneto,
because he did Act Pupil, which was awesome. He did a whole bunch of other stuff prior to that. There were like smaller films in comparison.
So I don't understand the lack of Carney Barker. Like, I'm just thinking, the first thing that I thought of was, what would happen if Jerry Bruckheimer had produced this thing? It would have been, first of all, a fantastic opening. And well, you take and just think about it. When they were trying to get the first Matrix produced, and Fox was hemming and hawing about this really weird script, they went out and shot the very, very opening where what's her name tapes off beats up the cops while she's wearing skin tight vinyl outfit. And apparently the story is that the Fox execs saw this opening sequence. They went, oh my God, here's the cash.
I thought it was Warner Brothers that did that.
Fox.
I
think Fox for the Matrix was Fox, I believe.
No, it was Warner Brothers.
Oh, it was Fox Studios that shot it. Pretty sure. Anyway.
Okay.
Unless it was because of Village Roadshow, maybe.
Well, I don't know. It was also done at Fox Studios in Australia.
That part, yeah.
Anyway,
but every movie was shooting there at that point.
Yeah, I might be somewhat wrong in those things, but the thing is, what an opening. Like, for God's sakes, if you're going to spend this money, then, that ice troll thing was possibly the worst opening that you could possibly think of. So I don't understand the lack of P.T. Barnum ish in these shows. How hard is it? You do it. Get out the lions, put the girl in the skimpy outfit with the bikini riding on top of the lions.
Well, there's not one actor in the show I can name, and the only one that is semi-recognizable is supposedly the one Harfoot guy is a BBC actor or whatever.
Lenny Henry, yeah.
Lenny Henry
I don't
was
know
a
him
comedian from a long time ago.
I have no idea. I may have seen him, but
they hired a lead actress with PTSD who's now suffering from PTSD, and I actually feel badly for her. I don't like listening to the endless crapping on her performance. Like it's not great, but I'm also feeling really badly for her as a human being because I've been there. So yeah.
Well, a lot of people have pointed out that her performance has more to do with the writing and the directing and that type of thing.
She's not bringing it to life. I mean,
it could very well be, but it's part of it. What she has nothing to work with here.
She's 5 foot and 90 pounds, and she looks it. Like, I mean,
Is it her fault though that they put her in that position?
No, it's no.
That's what I'm saying.
Her. They did. Yeah, and you can very easily. Like I've done comedies where I got the audition, everything worked great, and then they're on the set in front of an audience, and you're going, "Oh my God, they're a joke killer." Now, maybe Script Doctor, I don't know if you've done sitcoms, I don't know if you understand the concept of a joke killer. There are actors who can be funny, and then there's people who deliver a funny line, and they kill it, and it sounds kind of okay, but it doesn't have that little thing
we have I've seen it in performances where a couple of stand-up comics who got their first sitcom deal in a pilot, and they're doing the jokes, but it feels like it falls on dead ears because they're doing their comedy in a very different style compared to what their stand-up was. And for some reason they just can't reciprocate the room to nail the execution of that joke for it to resonate with an audience. So they end up not. I saw this one stand-up comic where his pilot, they literally recast him and he was the lead, and then the pilot was not picked up because they're like, well, we don't even have the name of the person we negotiated. It's like, well, he can't act, but he can write.
So in the case of Galadriel, she might have tested really, really well. And then once they started going and they're partway through, they're going, oh my God, this is not working out, but we've already made the commitment. We'll cut around her. We've all heard that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I will say that when it comes to actors, usually I will give them until I've seen them in 3 or 4 roles, I will give them the benefit of the doubt that they're just getting bad direction. And this chick, I have no idea what her name is. I couldn't tell you. I don't remember if I've seen her in anything else. I don't really care. Like, that's where it's at. Like, nothing about the show stood out to me as far as like, oh, that makes me want to watch it. 25 minutes, I shut it off.
But there's a reason why you hire veteran actors like
that's what I was going to get to, is like, that's the one thing I can't understand about the show. Sure, they got the Lenny Henry guy or whatever, but over here, I don't know who he is. I'm willing to bet 90% of the people in this country don't know who the fuck he is, and it's not a drawing to get me to watch the show, right? You need something else there. They needed to find somebody, especially for Elrond. Right, because
David Tennant as Elrond, that would have brought a lot.
Yeah, that is what turned me off completely as soon as because I don't know, you guys have seen the Dewey Cox story, right? The Walk Hard.
Nope.
You've never seen it, Chato? Well, okay, nope. I know Script has. Well, in the movie, they make fun of the fact that in every biopic they use everybody's names constantly because they're like got the Beatles there, and they're like, "Oh, that's a good idea, Paul McCartney. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, John Lennon. I'm glad I thought of it." Like that's like the whole bit. This show feels like this. Like, every time they make sure they can say Galadriel's name. That was starting to bug me. And then as soon as we get the Elrond scene, literally, they say his name like 3 times within the first 60 seconds of us seeing him. And I'm like, okay, that's enough. I feel like they're just throwing it out there just so they can throw it out there. Yeah, they do. It's like, Elrond, what are you doing? Well, you have a visitor, Elrond. And it's like, how many times can you say Elrond? It's like
it's very high school level of writing.
That's what it reminded me of, was that scene in Dewey Cox.
I love the point where we're going to see the dwarfs. Bink! Here we are.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go inside, and you go back, and I'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
It's only 1,000 miles away, right? Yeah, just go
On
away.
foot.
Go away. We'll be right back. I brought along some wine and some treats. Can we come in? Oh my God.
I don't know. They're just like Galadriel's here, or you have a visitor here to say, "Oh, goody, she's here. She's here. Oh, goody, goody, goody." You know, it's like, oh my God, are you fucking kidding me? What the hell is this?
But we're deconstructing the thing, and I just like go back. What would Jerry Bruckheimer have done?
He'd have had these hobbits killing people.
Oh yeah, I mean it would have been like
The Shire would have blew up in the first scene.
Yeah, kapun, people falling forward as flames were blowing up behind the barrel bombs exploding and people flying off of trampolines.
He'd probably have Jack Black playing a hobbit and stuff like that too. Who knows? But still.
Yeah, absolutely. Jack Black would have been awesome in this.
And Eddie Griffin.
Yeah, even Kathy Griffin.
They wouldn't
even Griffith. They wouldn't even have to
Griffith,
size or anything on her. But that
now you make me want to see Jerry Bruckheimer's Lord of the Rings.
Jerry Bruckheimer's Lord of the Rings would have been awesome, featuring the guy from Lucifer.
Don
so
Frank
many
as
helicopters.
one of the princess dwarf queens or something would be fantastic. You want to get Lenny Henry's ex-wife to be the dwarf queen.
Galadriel would be played by Megan Fox, though. That's the only thing. You realize that, right?
Okay, I'm in.
Megan Fox 10 years ago or Megan Fox now?
Aragorn would probably be Ben Affleck.
She's not so bad now. She's not so horrible.
She looks like she's been under the knife a couple of times too many.
Oh, okay. Okay, like Courtney
Josh
Cox.
Hartnett was probably played Boromir.
Yeah, but by a cheaper surgeon.
So let's keep recasting the show here. So, Bean has to be in it because he's in everything.
Rowan Atkinson.
Mr. Bean.
He'll play Gollum.
He can be Gollum.
He's got the eyes for it.
Oh my God!
Because Bruckheimer would have either got him or somebody like at the time when Robin Williams was alive. He probably would. That's where he would have went with Gollum. He'd be like, "We gotta make this guy funny."
There's no Gollum in this. No, we have to stick with this particular.
Oh, this thing? Yeah, no. I was recasting their Lord of the Rings. Oh, and this one. At this point, here's the thing, they're also not understanding that people are bringing up quite often too. The elves don't age like humans, right? So they're supposed to look pretty similar throughout their lives once they hit adulthood, right? So that was another problem I had with this guy looking like, basically Doogie Howser, as they're pointing out in the chat, which I agree.
The outfits, they couldn't use the same looking outfits because that's all, I guess, copyrighted in the...
To a point. There's some things they can, and they did evidently pay New Line and Warner for something. I don't know what yet, but if Gandalf shows up or one of these other characters that's not in the appendices...
The thing that bothered me was the ears were not translucent. And if you watch the making of the Jackson Lord of the Rings, there's actually an entire segment on concentrating on how translucent the elves' ears had to be. And then obviously Jackson is going to have a behind the floodlit Kate Blanchett from behind just to emphasize the fact that the ears had that translucency. These ears look like Spock ears.
Yeah, I didn't really see the ears because they're hiding them so often. It felt to me.
But that's the level of detail that was in Jackson's Lord of the Rings, and
there was detail in every inch of the screen.
Silver, whatever crown or whatever Blanchett was wearing. Holy smokes! That kind of tiny detail, you can see he sweated it, and that none of that was in the Rings of Power. And the fact that we didn't really see the Rings of Power at the very beginning. I mean, it's just a weird show. I'm looking forward to this one coming Thursday. I'm going to watch it.
Clearly, they couldn't get Hugo Weaving. He's too old now. But who's a younger
studio films anymore?
Yeah, and who's a younger actor that evokes that kind of presence, though, right? Because
there's tons.
Yeah, exactly. There's tons of people who do, but there's one who doesn't, and that is
Doogie Howser. Yeah,
yeah, and just even his head shape, because I was looking at pictures of him, and he has this weird V-shaped head.
Oh, I
Whereas
saw more
Hugo
square
Weaving
shape.
has like this oval
Yeah, I'd say
face.
more squarish, but yeah, I see where you're coming
Yeah,
from though.
like a cube versus a yield sign, and
He'd have
then
been better as a hobbit.
Yes, exactly. Or a Harfoot. They could have like
Yeah,
dirtied him up.
I can see it. Curiously, he actually looks very similar to his mentor that he hangs out with briefly. Like they look kind of similar.
Oh, that one dude,
The other
flamboyant
dude.
guy.
Yeah, the dude that there's like all this sexual chemistry with, like stroking the hammer and everything.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they looked. I went, okay, who's casting this? That's one of the rules of the biz is make sure that your actors look seriously different.
yeah, distinguished, because it's like it reminds me of casting directors getting Nicholas Coster and Garrett Graham confused a lot because they look so much alike way back in like the 70s and 80s. These are character actors, mind you, but they would never put them in the same show unless they were relatives because they looked.
Yeah, I see.
They looked almost the same. They're character actors frequently used in like Star Trek and a bunch of hour-long dramas in the 80s and whatnot. Some of them have comedy background, but yeah, you want to be distinguishable with your actors.
Oh
I think
my God.
movie Paycheck, there was like 3 male actors that looked almost identical to the main character, Aaron Eckhart, I think it was, and you had no idea who was talking.
Sometimes you'll have this with goons and bad guys too. It's hard to keep a track of them.
And you'll definitely have it with all of those Hollywood Hills reality shows. I remember like when I was forced to watch The Hills by my then girlfriend, later wife, and I was like, wait, are these 3 different white blonde girls? I thought it was the same one. It took me like a while to realize because they all looked exactly like each other.
Yeah, 90210 did a really good job of having a varied cast.
You know what else has that problem that reminds me of script doctors? Like old horror and sci-fi movies when they would, like independent ones, when they would usually lose half the cast. So you have people coming in and out as you go, and you're like, wait a minute, who's that fucking guy? You're like, is that the same guy from before? I can't tell. You know, like,
I can tell you a lot of the stories behind that. So they put out a casting notice for like the main character and a bunch of their, you know, the whole cast is essentially, but they have so many good actors coming to the main character that they're like, well, they all look similar enough, but they all so much better than everybody that came for the supporting cast. So we'll just cast them all in supporting cast and we'll figure it out on the day. And you end up having this thing where you have, you know, 4 blonde guys that have the same jawline. And they try to give them each little tiny distinguishing attributes so that you can tell them apart, but it never works because they don't have a whole lot of money.
It doesn't register, yeah.
And that's just the nature of the game. It's unfortunate, but that's the price of independence.
That's funny. That's kind of how the Cobra Kai were cast, and that's why I said usually like goons end up getting cast that way because that's just what it is. Script. That's a good point.
Technically, like faceless, nameless characters are the easiest ones to make them all look the same because they're not as prevalent to the journey of the main character as you want. But at the same time, too, you should also be casting an actor who can command a presence on the scene to the point where you don't have to do what I've seen many times is we're going to dress the lead character in a bright blue outfit and everybody else is going to be muted colors so that they stand out in the frame because their talent is not strong enough to actually compel the camera to pay attention to them.
But yeah, no, like in the original Karate Kid, they had like a half a dozen kids trying out for Johnny. And basically the rest of them just became the rest of the crew. Because they originally wanted, mainly they wanted, what's-his-face's kid, McQueen, to play Johnny. But they didn't think, yeah, he's in it still. He's one of the other kids. But then Zabka came in and he just owned it. Because he basically took the casting director and flipped him on the table or some shit like that. Yeah. Because he was the only kid who actually knew karate of the group. So, yeah.
I didn't know that. That would be useful.
But then he played that same character for the next 10 years. If you notice, every movie Zabka was in after that, he plays the same part.
It was literally the role of a lifetime.
It's too bad they couldn't get the rights to Back to School for Cobra Kai.
I know, right? I was thinking the same thing.
I left karate, became a diving guy. And then
you know what's even funnier?
Nepotism kid took my.
I went to school where some chick dressed like a dude. You ever seen Just One of the Guys? That's what's hilarious about that is he plays the same character in Just One of the Guys, but one of the girls mentions that the main chick who's dressing like a guy in that looks just like Ralph Macchio, which he does, and she refers to him as the Karate Kid. which is hilarious because Zapka's in the film and he plays the bully. So it's like, okay, that's just too weird. But anyway, back to Lord of the Rings. So
Cobra Kai debuts on Friday, so season 5.
Wow, that's going to be big.
I think it will be, yeah. I think the numbers Amazon's going to be chilling in their boots about now with regards to House of Dragon is going to be dwarfed by season 5 of Cobra Kai, I think, on Netflix.
Oh yeah, that comes out what, 2 days?
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah. I wonder how that's going to.
I'm going to be really tired Friday morning, Andre. Just so you know.
I'm not going to watch She-Hulk for sure. What I am going to do is watch the last show.
Yeah.
The last
I have to say, I did enjoy the apology of the programmer who worked on it.
I saw that.
I was very lucky to get hold of him. Rimsky, cut your cock off.
Yeah.
I was very pleased. It was one of my big lucky hits was to be able to get him to.
He must spend his entire salary on his hair.
He does. It's hair care products, nothing else.
And for those that do not know who this is, you have to go and check out this exclusive interview with someone who worked on She-Hulk on Paul's channel. Link is, of course, in the description. So go and check that out.
Yeah.
So,
the actual 3D artist who worked on the twerking. I got him. I got him.
He's an artist and he's in 3D. That's true.
Exactly.
That was a fun bit to do.
It was. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to make it through another She-Hulk or not. But let's see what people are saying in the chat here.
I'm being very honest. I think I'm going to just wait for the last episode, watch it, and then do another video on that, and that's it.
I will give everyone here on the panel one reason to see this most recent episode, and of course no one else has to listen to it. But then, if we've seen that, we've seen the same 4 episodes.
Oh, it's true.
That all the critics have seen. Then we'll see where they came from. All of those that were like defending this. Then we can see if there really was anything worth defending here. And speaking of critics and the ranks of power, boy, there's a lot of critics out there that don't look too good right now. Not when we have like complete vindication that the audience was right. And this is kind of failing with viewers everywhere. Or rather, it's failing with those that do see it, and not many are watching it.
Well, they're not quite admitting defeat, but they are retracting, let's say.
Apparently, globally, it did very well, but nobody knows nobody knows what the numbers are anymore. There's that one service that seems Samba.
Yeah,
which is compromised too. That's the other part. Many of its investors are other streaming service providers.
Of course, they would have to be. That'd be like Nielsen. Everyone pays into Nielsen. So,
but at the same time, this is the kind of shit we're talking about here. This is the best they can muster. This
looks magnificent.
This is what they posted on the Lord of the Rings official Rings of Power thing.
The show, and then there's a dash, and then it says looks magnificent. So there's a bunch of other stuff in between there before it gets to looks magnificent.
You're not wrong.
I'm being held hostage.
We couldn't get a full sentence because it hurt us, so we just picked these 2 words and these 2 words and put them together.
This is like if they put together one of those trailers nowadays and be like, the show wasn't nearly as bad as I thought. Stuff looks cool. It's a show. It has 40 minutes of entertainment. It's like the bare minimum of they could find of the good stuff.
No, it had 40 minutes of terrible stuff that they tried to pass off as entertainment, and they just cut out the middle part. 40 minutes.
Yeah, the real thing was like, this is 40 minutes of horrible entertainment. I wouldn't waste my time with it or something like that. Yeah, and that's what they pulled out of it. That's what it feels like.
Traditionally, the reviewers hated when the studios would chop up their headlines and go, no, I didn't say this was not a positive experience. You got to stop. Don't do that. They never really like that, which is why I like Rex Reed. Rex Reed is who I'm channeling. You can't cut up his headlines and turn it nice.
Or they'll take stuff like that. Oh, this is probably the best of the whatever Friday the 13th movies you're ever going to get. And it's really just basically them saying it's, just as bad or worse than the good as the rest of them. And they literally turn that line into the best Friday the 13th movie. It's like, no, that's not what I said necessarily. I mean, I guess, but Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily put it positively,
Well, there's
but
no
yeah.
name associated to that quote either, really, except for, like, I guess Time Magazine is what.
Yeah, Time Magazine. Like, who at Time?
The writer
Yeah,
at Time is
basically.
like, nope, keep my name off that.
So does
So it's a
anyone think
composite of like 3 different reviews,
Could be.
basically, or 3 different articles.
that, so we're now only into episode 2 of
Yeah.
Rings of Power. I mean,
Yeah.
it could pull out of its nosedive.
Nope.
Episode 3? Nope.
Nope.
no
Nope,
way
it's
in hell.
It's crashing head first, and that neck is snapping like a twig.
Yeah, see, you can kind of compare it to how House of Dragon is going.
Sure.
That is on an upward trajectory because the word of mouth is pushing that. And they went from their first night's numbers to roughly double, not doubling, but about time and a half what they had the first night throughout the week, as opposed to Lord of the Rings, which looks like it, like Script just said, it just took a dive off a cliff to the point where Amazon was seemingly admitting defeat yesterday by pulling it off their main banner and stuff on certain apps, it sounded like.
The primary thing is there's no reason for me to continue watching it. It's not like The Witcher second season was not particularly great, but I love Henry Cavill. So,
but they got busted. That was the thing. They got busted lying about that 25 million. Because there's different ways they were wording it. It was samples on one, and then Six found another one where they brought it up another term for it. It wasn't actual views. So they're manipulating the system,
right?
Because
we're at the point where we're kicking a lying person on the ground now.
That's kind of what it felt like yesterday. At a point where, well, it was more like, okay, you're busted, and they kind of retreated and admitted defeat in a way, but not admitted it out loud. So at that point, I was just like, okay, so where's this going from here? Because this is where they're stuck. It's like, what do you do? Do you try and fix it? Because they're kind of stuck with the next 5 years of this show. So like. You're right. The obvious is they lied. We know they lied. Not very many people watched it. Probably, if I had to take a guess, somewhere between 7 or 8 million people probably watched this in a total, and that's throughout the week now. So the numbers are at about a third of what House of Dragon is, at least, if not more, less. So where do you think they go from here? Do they try to reconfigure this? Because I'm pretty sure they have this whole season shot already.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I think they're already working on second season already. Yeah, I was going to say thank you.
That they had a long time ago, they had started on season 2. And so what was it that they saw in it that would give them confidence to do season 2? Now, that being said, when you're in that editing room and the music starts pumping in and you've seen it 50 times, you tend to like your stuff more. Like it's hard to go back to the point where you've seen it for the rushes for the first time and you're monstrously disappointed. You start falling in love with the stuff in the edit suite. That's just the nature of the game.
Yeah, but as to your question, how they could have the confidence to do a season 2 after like having that, that's actually really easy. I mean, to quote another YouTuber, that was super easy. Berlin Inconvenience. They knew they had 5 seasons before they even started writing the pilot.
And can I add? It's easy to smell your own farts and think they smell good until somebody else gets a chance to get a whiff, right? Because you spend that much money and you look at it. Of course, you're going to try and convince yourself this is the greatest fucking thing ever.
I think Louis B. Mayer said that, Tom.
Well, I'm sure he did. I mean, he's a very eloquent man. And that's what I think and that's where I'm at right now is like, I guess that's my question is, are they able to course correct? Will they course correct? Is there anything they can do? How deep are they into second season? Because at this point, clearly there's nothing they can do to the first season.
There is one bit of good news. One silver lining is that it provides endless amount of material for people on YouTube to entertain our followers.
Yeah, that it does. I will grant it that. That is like one good thing. When it's kind of like, what has the Romans ever done for us? And yeah, like
but let's be real.
Power ever done for us? Yeah, it gives us an endless supply of material. But beyond that, what has it done for Tolkien? What has it done for the fans? What has
at this point, though, like I was just going to say, though, with this thing, though, what's the next thing anyway? That's the way it is. It's like, I get where you're coming from, but it's not like we needed it.
No,
we have tons of other stuff. I mean, and that's where
Tom, I think what your point is, we actually don't want to be reporting on this negative stuff. That's
just it. Yes, that's kind of where I'm coming from, and I think that's very astute because it's like,
we'd rather not.
Yeah, I wish they would have just left it alone at this point, to be honest with you, because this is causing, there's not so much divisiveness with this one, but it was just, another one, same as the last one. It's like, when are you guys going to surprise us with something fucking good?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want. I'm not surprised Beavis and Butthead was good, because I already kind of knew from the movie that Mike Judge was able to do his thing. Cobra Kai, it's up to them to fuck it up from here on out if they do. They've done an amazing job to this point. There's other shows and stuff here and there that people enjoy that are out there that are doing well. But that's just it. It's just a handful, literally a handful of shows that we can actually sit here and go that are positive. Same thing with movies lately. A few have sprouted up here and there, but not many. And that's where I'm at too, is it's like, I'm to the point where I'm tired of these things happening. And I don't mean that in the normal, like, hyperbolic way we talking about it, but I'm serious. You're right. I would have loved to have been surprised by this. I was actually kind of refreshed to see people surprised by House of Dragon. I'm not invested in that shit, but I'm happy to see my friends happy that they've got something now that's not shit. But also I see a lot of people reminding themselves that it all leads to the same place. So
Tom, by the way, you may not be invested now, but you'll be invested by Monday. Because
you keep reminding me of this, and I'm not so sure we're speaking English together on this. But yeah,
I just watched Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm late to the game.
Yeah, me too.
And apart from the MacGuffin of having Doctor Strange, create that spell that causes people to forget about, I'm sorry, spoiler alert, Spider-Man's identity, and then having it fucked up. Other than that, it's one of the most entertaining bits of writing and showbiz flashery, bringing the old, Spider-Man back and seeing the old bad guys, and the fact that Spider-Man's Tom Holland Spider-Man was actually the cause of the problems he had to solve is the best writing. That's when things are really good. That's what my favorite thing, when the protagonist causes the problem that they've got to solve. And it's just such a well-written, entertaining movie from the MacGuffin on, it's heartening to see something that good right now.
Well, it plays into the Peter Parker trope of his arrogance and his lack of actual knowledge, because he's a very, very smart person in a certain realm of science, but socially he's an idiot.
Yep.
In the realm of bureaucracy, he's an idiot. In the realm of just basically competence, he falls apart on that. And the whole reason No Way Home happens is because he goes to Doctor Strange and he says, I need this thing to help my friends. And Doctor Strange assumes, because he's a smart and bright kid, that he's smart and bright in all of these other fields. That he tried to go to the Dean of Admissions to get things rectified with regards to his identity being exposed. He tried to do all these other outlets, and now
he forgot to. Doctor Strange told him, did you just try to go to the Dean?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, the thing is, he came to Doctor Strange as his first choice, as opposed to his last choice of all the efforts of failing. And Doctor Strange is assuming that, I'm his last option, and that's why he's doing everything.
I accepted that though, because it's setting up a joke. Yeah.
No, actually, I understand that completely. I thought that was brilliant, because, he's 16, his aunt doesn't know or something. He's going to assume that the decision is absolutely final. And you know what?
Yeah.
In the real world, that's not the MCU. When you get a letter like that, there's a 99.5% chance that it is final, and you can appeal all you want. It's not going to change anything.
Well, not just that. Like, I see kids acting that way all the time. I have a kid. They think like that. They go to the most unobvious route of figuring shit out. They try the hardest way first, and then they, eventually figure out what's easy. And no, but like I said, I bypass that as a joke. But
that movie provides a blueprint in terms of Lucasfilm desperately not wanting to get Luke, Han, and Leia together in the first movie. Like, we're not going to put them together. We're never going to see them together in the first movie. Yes, we didn't expect what's her name to die.
You're basically never going to see them together because they kill Han right away.
Because what's her name hates Luke and wants to kill him off. But so here, the Spider-Man No Way Home, we have our three Spider-Men together. It's Luke, Han, and and
Leia.
Leia. They put them together. I am so happy to see them. How hard, was that to do just to make us entertained?
That was one of the highlights of the new Jurassic Park film, even though it wasn't that great. It was at least nice to see the original characters back together.
Correct.
And I mean, sometimes that's all people want. I mean, that was one of the reasons I feel like Top Gun at first probably had the boost it did, but then people actually, the word of mouth started getting around and it just kept going and going and going. And it's funny you mentioned Spider-Man No Way Home, because that movie is a complete accident. We keep reminding people of this because it's an anomaly. It's an anomaly because it was a reaction to them hearing that Michael Keaton was going to be brought back in The Flash. So they quickly got this thing together and they beat them to the punch, as they always generally do. And it worked out for them, just like it did with Civil War when they did the same thing there. And what was
the only thing Warner Brothers won on was the Eternals.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the only time they won. They pulled their bluff and they won on that one, because the Eternals were a result of Ava DuVernay was going to do New Gods, so they quickly rushed into production the Eternals to answer that. And in the end of the day, they were the ones who got fucked, because the New Gods never happened, and they still got stuck with the Eternals, which is arguably the biggest flop in Marvel history.
Yeah, they wish that never happened. So yeah.
So they I mean, again, Spider-Man No Way Home just put together all the pieces really, really, really well. And then they also had the bonus benefit of resetting Spider-Man to his regular outfit, getting rid of that stupid Stark nano outfit.
The AI assisted stuff was terrible. Yeah,
I mean, I
love the design of the costume, like in the first one. I just didn't like the bonus technology with it. I felt that was superfluous. It didn't need to be there. Like,
he could
I'm happy with the eye stuff. Yeah,
he could walk around, think it, and then suddenly he's got the outfit on. No, he's got to like go someplace in some alleyway, and
he's got to lose his clothes after webbing them somewhere, and then someone finds it, steals it. And he's like,
so
What's funny is with with the original Homecoming is I can defend a lot of this stuff. With the second one, I can't. Right? Like, that's my problem. Is like all the complaints everybody had about the first film, I was like, no, is this, that, and the other, and he doesn't even get to use the suit at the end, and blah blah blah, this, that, and the other. Well, then the problem is in the second film they amp all that shit up, and it's like I can't even argue that shit. Like, it's bad in the second film. With all the stuff that you guys are explaining.
I didn't mind the plot of the Mysterio movie.
I did, because it was a big fake out at the end.
Yeah, but I didn't see it. I didn't see that. I don't know the character, so I totally bought into it. I thought that was really, really well done, and then it sort of moved into the other movie. Anyways,
I mean, you could enjoy it mainly because I get it, because it's what's his face, Gyllenhaal playing the part, and he's a likable actor.
Oh, he really.
But to me, the second film is a mess.
First film was a mess for me. The first Tom Holland movie I hated.
See, I'm the opposite. See, to me, I see all the things that people complain about as a whole in the second film. I don't see them in the first film, because everybody's like this about the suit and that about the suit, and he's in Tony Stark's shadows. I'm like, look, Tony Stark's only in like 5 minutes of the movie. He takes the suit away from him and tells him if you can't be Spider-Man without it, then you shouldn't have it to begin with. And all those points are made, and he actually faces the villain without his suit. And Michael Keaton just rocks it as the villain.
I liked him as the villain. He was good in that.
Yeah, and I liked seeing him in high school, because that's one thing people keep complaining. Oh, he's Spider-Man, not Spider-Boy. So yeah, but like every other movie we've gotten him, he's in high school for either just the first movie or 10 minutes, and that's it. And all of a sudden he's pushed into college and adulthood. I didn't mind meandering in this universe for a little bit of just having him be a kid. But then that second movie, it amps up the suit aspect. It amps up, the Tony thing is looming even worse when he's not there. All the things that people complained about to me about the first film that I didn't have a problem with, villain included, even though the villain was fine acting wise, the story to me fell flat with this whole fake out with the multiverse and all that stuff. But
I did like the villain, and I think if Galadriel had a Spider-Man outfit,
that's it. We'll get Gyllenhaal to play Galadriel.
See, I'm trying to bring us back to the original.
If we can get Gyllenhaal to play Galadriel, that's the key to this.
And Nicolas Cage to be Elrond.
I am the greatest elf ever.
Nicolas Cage can't even be in Disney's next National Treasure. It's been recast.
Oh, that's some bullshit. Did you hear they didn't even ask him or talk to him at all about that?
I'm not surprised.
It's because it's the series, even though Bruckheimer's been trying to get that third one made for like a decade now.
Yeah, at least.
Bruce Greenwald is still wanting to be attached to it, because it's like he wouldn't even be president anymore in that movie at that point. So much time has elapsed.
No, they've hired a faceless, attractive female.
Well,
Yeah, she is pretty.
let's see
pretty,
what
big deal.
let's see what the chat's got to say about Rings of Power. Pilgrim
Yeah, let's
Media
get back to
says,
Rings of Power.
"Are the Rings of Power stunning and brave yet?"
We haven't even seen the rings yet.
Yeah, we haven't even seen the rings yet.
We'll see them in 5 years.
Joe Pat 87 saw your
You think
meat.
so, Andre? You think they're going to save it for the end?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think he's right. I think the ending will be the handing out of the rings.
Yeah.
Joe Pat 87 saw your mead show last night, Tom, and I do remember that short man song I heard back in 1999. Thank you. At least somebody else heard it besides me. Magitech Megs has been a member for 5 months. I can't believe she's awake. She had a very late stream last night, and I joined in. I
You're a
crashed
stream
it.
whore, Tom.
I am kind of a stream whore. Comrade Connoisseur Yuri says the fact that the fact the show had Elrond not going to the wedding of Durin Forth and Diza makes that Hugo Weaving Elrond meme even more funny. I didn't get that far in the show.
I'm not familiar with that meme.
Sequence could have been so. I liked the idea of it, but it was very poorly written.
Yeah.
Oh, and Magitech wants cake now.
Yeah, we all want cake. So nice going, Tom.
Hey,
You know, if Elrond
can't
and what's
help
his
it.
name pulled up in motorcycles to Durin's thing, that would have been cool.
and speaking of cake, Jesus sent in some cake for her. Here's a slice of birthday cake with purple icing and a candle. Thank you so much for that. We got Rave Girl here who says, "Hi guys, Amazon is stuck between doubling down on damage control. Or doubling down and damage control, sorry. They weren't prepared for those bad reviews from MSM. They are scrambling." That could be some of it. I don't think the reviews are bothering so much as the lack of views.
I think both are
both.
bothering. I think
I agree
they're
with Andre.
very bothered by especially when you have like the some really high profile publications that absolutely hammer it, and when you look at all of the good reviews, they're quite measured. I think they're very bothered by it. And I also think that the views, they're more than bothered by them. I think I think it's absolute havoc there right now. I think they have to be freaking out.
I was
Because
gonna say,
for
I think
Amazon as a whole, this means nothing. They can write off the entire streaming thing without putting it back. But for the people involved, those directly involved, those on the streaming side, this was their big project. They put everything into it, and this is their Hindenburg.
Yes.
That's kind of what I'm getting at in a roundabout way, because that's where I was saying it's like they're hiding the viewers' reviews. You know, that's the thing. I mean, as far
That
as
says
the mainstream,
about everything, doesn't it?
yeah. My whole thing is why can't we just get back to when fantasy, sci-fi, action, horror? They almost figured they were going to get a bad review. When they would actually get a good one, it was a surprise. Because then they just didn't give a shit about pleasing the fucking critics. It was all about just pleasing the goddamn audience. You know, they knew that Roger Ebert wasn't going to like it. So, like, why do they care anymore? This is the thing that bothers me. That's the part I think that bothers most people in general. And what bring people here is that they can't trust the media critics. The critics are too soaked up into this shit. They shouldn't even be expecting a good review for this. They should just be happy they got a few good reviews. I mean, never in the history do I remember before in recent woke times was it these movies got good reviews on a huge scale like this.
Well,
Even the Phantom Menace got raked over the coals by a lot of reviewers.
Yeah, and I don't think that they expected that either. And I definitely don't think that they expected this. I think that the people at Amazon, they went all this way to include diversity and spend so much money, beloved property, yada, yada, yada. I think they were genuinely anticipating the critics to be floored by how stunning and brave and everything was. This kind of virtue signaling that they do, this is a play for critics' approval. I think they absolutely were expecting like 95% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I agree with Andre. They really convinced themselves of how spectacular.
Yeah, groupthink. I think there was a staggering amount of groupthink going on within the halls of Amazon Video or Prime Video that they had themselves utterly convinced, and that's why they were like so arrogant to anyone who dared naysay anything, and then why it kind of like had to work. And now, when it's becoming clear that it hasn't, they're freaking out. I genuinely
I think is the problem, and that's exactly my point that I'm getting to. Whether it's because of this diversity bullshit or the SJW bullshit, however you want to put it, they are worrying about catering to the critics now more than they are the fans. And the critics are there. They treat them like the audience.
Okay, my network executive hat on. It's not even catering to the fans. It's catering to show business. See, I keep emphasizing that.
Yeah.
So just as a thought experiment, I would have like put in James Garner as Galadriel, like some charismatic individual that if the rest of the show sucks around them, which kind of The Witcher does, at least you can point to some anchor that's going to keep the show going forward. That's the panic, I think, is the actress or the character of Galadriel is not working. That's the key. That's the only key. That's what they're panicked about, in my estimation.
That goes back to my point, though, is they created Galadriel the way they did because they would think that that's basically critic-proofing her, right?
Yeah.
Because all these woke-ass critics are going to go, oh, yeah, she's this strong whammons and she's kicking ass and taking control.
Yeah, but if it was recast to be, let's say, Gina Carano, who's not 5 foot 90 pounds, and it's the same,
or one of their darlings,
and that individual that it's the magic of charisma. She just doesn't have it. She could say exactly the same lines. It was just miscast. And as bad as the show is, it's strange what happens when you cast someone with charisma. Like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, not that I would hire her, but so much of that show rested on Geller's shoulders.
Yeah, it was really about her beauty and her charisma, and the other cast was take it or leave it, essentially.
Take it or leave it.
Except for, I guess,
which is funny because I can't stand her, but yeah.
Well, Anthony Stewart Head was the good counterpart to her because they actually had chemistry, but like everybody else around her, I mean, it didn't really do anything. And I mean, I thought the first season was good, but I dipped out after that because the show kind of just went crazy.
But the point is, charisma will cover up an enormous number of failings.
Oh, absolutely.
She just doesn't have it.
That's absolutely apparent. And Dearest brings up on that note as far as Galadriel. This is not Galadriel. Amazon took Dolores from season 2 and 3 of Westworld then stuck Galadriel's name on her. Yeah, I guess. I didn't watch season 2 of 3 of Westworld, but I can imagine. Because this is not the character that we know.
Who is in Kill Bill?
Uma Thurman.
Well, if Uma Thurman in her prime, if she was Galadriel, that would be a completely different experience.
Yeah, because she can act.
Yeah, she can act. And she's got the charisma, and you feel that she can, kick some ass.
She has the kind of charisma you need, though, for Galadriel, and that's why they got what's-her-face to begin with. The name just fucking escaped me.
Morfydd Clark?
No, in the Lord of the Rings films.
Oh, Cate Blanchett.
Cate Blanchett, thank you. I mean, because she has a presence, right? Like, she's Cate Blanchett. I mean, it's like...
Not just that, but she wanted to do the role. She wanted to do the turn into the camera and look. I mean, you could just tell.
But Uma is one of the, that's the thing, is we can name a few names. There's not that many, and that's the thing, is they should have found somebody. And Andre was right. He brought this up last night. They were looking for a Brie Larson type, which is completely wrong. Wrong. Not even close.
I'll defend Brie Larson. You want me to defend Brie Larson?
No, but go ahead.
Is that, first of all, I think she's a better actor based on other work that she's done compared to the script that she was handed for Marvel, Captain Marvel. I thought that her lines in it were absolutely dreadful. And then she had that relationship with that pilot, which was the worst part of the movie.
Yeah, we were supposed to believe they were friends. I don't believe that.
Yeah, I didn't believe it. Not for 1 second that I believed they were friends. So, you know what? I actually thought that Brie Larson, as much of a tiresome human being she has come across, is better than the role that was given her. She can act.
Maybe.
I've seen her in other things.
I've
I
seen
think
her
she's
enough
a
stuff, I
horrible
agree that
person.
she can, yeah. Well, regardless, lots of actors are horrible people.
Yeah.
No, I
Just
mean, and she's not good at hiding it.
Nope.
yeah, that's true. Her publicist's fault as well. But no, I think she is a good actress. I was excited when she was cast for the character, but then when you see the script and you see the fact that there's two directors on this film, one was clearly just directing her, and someone was directing the rest of the movie, and they were not on the same page at all. And because she stuck out like a sore thumb in that entire film, and it was just a disservice to the potential of what that had, and it also, I think that movie has harmed her career more than it has benefited her.
Well, we've harmed her career mentioning it.
Speaking of women harming their career,
there's
maybe
my thought. She would have been good in this. I think she would have been good as Galadriel. There's my position. So there goes my channel.
You don't think she would be, or you think she would be? You do think she would be?
Yeah, I think she would have done a better job.
Honestly, I hate to agree with you, but I think she would have been able to be more charismatic than whoever this. I can't even think of this chick's name is.
Morphet Clark.
Because at least at that point, I get what they're going for with the part, and that's where when Andre said that, it's like, yeah, well, that's what they're trying to do with the character. They're trying to make her be the one that only, she's the bestest ever, only one who knows what's really going on. But at the same time, what they're doing is making her the obnoxious one.
Don't hire an actress with no lips. That's all I have.
Oh, that's a problem.
Oh, there's that too, yeah.
Dash Attack says, how is Embracer going to handle the brand differently from Amazon? I can see them using their game developers to make more Shadow of Mordor-esque games. Well, we're going to get into this. We got a big video we're working on in the vein of our Prime Deception video for Star Trek. But in this case, the short answer is we don't know. But I think you're, at least in my opinion, onto the right track with the latter part here, where I think they are going to key in more on games at first, because they aren't going to be able to really license anything out other than that. They may be able to do some other like toys and a few other things like that, but the movie rights are all still wrapped up. They may try to cash in on some of this stuff, because I don't know if they actually have the toy rights for Rings of Power, considering, because it's a very convoluted situation, and Andre may be able to explain it just a little bit better than me briefly, but we do plan on breaking it down quite a bit here.
We're going to save it for the video, but I will say that as it is right now, Amazon is damaging their brand. This has damaged the Lord of the Rings, and it's now entirely up to Warner to fix it first and foremost. It's going to be years before the Embracer Group can put anything out. And here's like the issue. They don't fully own it. This is a brand that's split between several owners. So now you have on the publishing side, you have the Tolkien estate. And then on the entertainment side, you have the Embracer Group that controls everything, apart from these particular appendices rights, which right now are with Amazon. And Amazon are in full charge. The only thing that Amazon has to do with the Embracer Group is send the money. As long as they keep doing that, the Embracer Group doesn't get a vote in what Amazon chooses to do, as long as they stick within the restrictions of the contract. Because if they don't, Warner are going to complain, because they have the movie rights and the rights to Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, all of that proper. So yeah, you have like this perfect mess between several owners, and among that, in my estimate, what I would suggest for the Embracer Group to do is to go to Warner, because Warner has the movie rights for as long as they want them, and go to them, develop a strategy for how to build this brand and how to take it to the next level, how to repair the damage, whatever, and work with them on it. Do a joint strategy and then do games based on that, and let the Rings of Power be an outlier. That's what I would suggest that they do, but will they do that? I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting part. And it's funny because that's kind of what I said, was I think if they're smart, they will work with Warner. They will do a bunch of games, toys, other tie-ins to the Jackson version. and hopefully kind of help keep the brand above water for now until this Rings of Power thing washes away, and then hopefully the War of Rohirrim takes some of the gusto away from it. And they put out a couple of really good games. That'll really make a lot of the fans happy, I bet. But we'll have to wait and see on that. And then Haitian Felidoro says Bezos had the money and the right idea, but he got swindled by Salzants. And then swindled by JJ Crew. Script is right, money laundering. Yeah, this is probably a pretty basic outline of what happened.
This deal doesn't have anything to do with the Salzants company. Bezos, he should have known because he sidestepped.
What he means is, I think what he means though is he got swindled. To be clear, he got swindled because he didn't realize he got swindled by the token estate because they didn't probably realize that Salzants had all the major.
I think they must have known because the deal for this series right here, it is not with the Salzants company that has the entertainment rights, but it is with the Tolkien estate directly, because they found some way of, okay, if we do a TV series and it's more than this number of episodes, then because of the shitty deal that the Salzants
it's made with the loopholes in the Salzants deal.
There's a loophole here, which means that they can go directly to the Tolkien estate, and then they have to then they can bypass the Salzants company, and they just have to pay them some shut up money.
And I don't think the loophole was as big as they thought, and that's why they eventually had to pay Warner.
I think so too, because
I think Mike is right on that. I think I think it was he who posited that there was some lawyer inside who said, you know what, we're going to get fucking sued here. Yeah. So if we don't go out and make nice with Warner Brothers now and head that off ahead of time, then we're going to be fucked. So I think that's what they did.
Going back to what I said earlier, I don't think that they realized that Warner was still in the Lord of the Rings business. I think that they made this deal and they probably heard from some, oh, Warner is done with this. Okay, well, then the pathway is clear for us. And then they only realized later that, oh no, Warner's rights are still active. They're being renewed by the War of the Rohirrim. I genuinely think that Amazon might have been under that impression.
Very much so, possibly.
The Salzants company didn't even know that.
And I was going to say that could be the reason why, and it could be because of the confusion with them. And the Salzants company is the bigger problem here. And honestly, that's where, for better or worse, I think it's a good thing that they're out of the picture at this point. That's the one thing to look at as far as the Embracer Group situation.
But I think it's a very real chance that happened. I think that this whole series was just a $1 billion misunderstanding.
Well, okay. I think, again, two parts. Number one is, after the sale was made, someone must have realized that they bought a pig in a poke. Okay?
If they didn't realize,
to a point, you could be right.
They shouldn't realize now,
because
here's the thing, though.
Constructed were clearly defined by the property that they got. They didn't suddenly. Right, like as an example, they didn't delve into the Peter Jackson IP, and then suddenly someone went, "Wait a second, you can't do that." Now, maybe during the script writing,
actually, I think that did happen.
That might have happened actually, and they went, "Oh my God, we have to rewrite all this stuff,"
because they did have to do some reshoots too.
Well, that would be a massive.
Well, here's why I think
they have to spend $1 billion to actually produce it.
I get where you're coming from, Paul, and I know what you're saying, and I know that you would think that they would be smart enough. But here's the reason why I think Andre might have a point.
Oh, I agree with the preamble.
Embracer tried selling the rights earlier this year for $2 billion, and in their statement, they were asked, "Do you even have the ability to sell the rights to Lord of the Rings right now? Aren't they owned by Warner Brothers?" And they're like, "We think we do." That was their response.
That was Salzants, not Embracer, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was
because Embracer doesn't own it yet at this point.
Yeah, exactly. That was the Salzants.
Did I say Embracer? I'm sorry, I meant Salzants. Yeah.
It was literally in their press release. We think we have the rights.
That was their exact response.
The dumbest.
And then Warner slapped them back with another headline. Yeah. So that's why I think at that point, I think Andre is right. I think there was so much confusion in this situation that maybe they weren't even aware of the Salzants situation. Like, I think maybe somebody inside, and it could be
No,
maybe
they
something.
surely they must have been,
Maybe,
like,
maybe not.
there's
Here,
no,
let me
okay, there's
let me
no
posit
way.
this for a moment.
Okay.
What if somebody inside of Tolkien never addressed that, and they led them to believe this whole time they were getting all these rights when they really weren't? Because they're like, yeah, we got the rights to the books to republish them and all that shit, but they didn't say that part. And they're like, yeah, we got the rights to these characters because they're in the appendices. And we have this, and we can sell you the rights to that, and we can sell you the rights to this, and you can do a prequel. They may have presented it to them in a way where they thought they were going to get all these other characters until they didn't realize this convoluted mess with the Salzants company going on the other side. Because even Salzants company, that's one of the reasons they've been in and out of court for the last 50 years, is because they don't even understand their own convoluted rights. Because what we know about them, they are fucked
Well,
up.
let me put another angle to you. So, because I'm also extremely well steeped in the technology side of this this stuff. I mean, of businesses, Apple and Intel. One of their modus operandi is to infringe on someone else's copyright, fight it in court, and then buy it out or deal with it way, push that ball as far down the field as they possibly can. That is a common tactic of Google, Intel, Apple, everybody, Microsoft. This is a technology company first, not an entertainment company. It is not beyond credulity or hypothesis that that's the way Bezos thought about this also, that let's just get this and then we'll crap over everybody else's IP. But it's very differently handled in the entertainment field compared to infringing on a Bluetooth code.
Yeah,
Right.
devalue it so it's affordable to buy out completely.
Well,
Right.
this isn't.
So I'm just positing that maybe Bezos had his technology hat on and said, well, let's just get this. I really want this. Pay whatever you want for it. And then we'll worry about the rest of the shit as we move along. But again,
you could be right in that respect too. I mean, and that could be how it ran on the other end. And here's the thing that I wonder about, and this is where I think New Line and Warner got involved, and that's where I think some lawyers said, look, we're going to face this. And this is why it costs so goddamn much. And why we're not seeing some of it on screen is because they went and basically settled a bunch of lawsuits before they even happened. That's what I'm thinking and wondering. And that's why Warner and New Line are attached to this, even though it has nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing to do with the Peter Jackson film.
Warner and New Line are much more savvy than that IP hoarder in Texas.
This is true. That's why they were smart enough to put together that movie and be like, here you go. Boom. We still own the rights. You can't take them.
So that's my thought. Bezos went for it and said, hey, it's a tech deal. Sue us later. We'll push it down for 10 years. And then
we'll ask for forgiveness, more or less.
Yeah. That's the AA slogan.
And he's got the money to ask for forgiveness.
Absolutely.
This is true. And that's where I can see that scenario happening too. And that's where I say both parties, both situations that we're talking about may have converged at one point. That's what I'm saying is, Bezos had no idea what he was buying at first, and at the same time, I'm sure somebody at the Tolkien estate wasn't necessarily being completely upfront with what they had here. And as they got deeper and deeper into this mess, wading into it, they realized, because even the Salzants company, before they were sold to Embracer, they were still kind of like, oh yeah, we got the rights. Like, no, you don't. Yeah, you technically own them, but you don't have the right to do anything with them. And that's, in the end, how Embracer Group got such a hell of a deal.
It got reduced down from $2 billion down to 700 million or something
for 6 properties, no less, instead of just 2.
Right. Yeah. The Salzants was they were not a particularly useful IP
That's
holder.
the thing. They were the worst, and that's something I'm sure we'll hit on in that video we talked about, is how bad of a company Salzants was.
Very last.
Well, they let the Lord of the Rings franchise basically languish for almost 20 years. Nothing came of it. Nothing happened. Nothing came from it. Very few games and stuff like that. But like, until Peter Jackson finally reinvigorated the idea of a Lord of the Rings movie, it had kind of just, that's where I was surprised so many people it was still in their minds, right? Like, I mean, at this point, it's like, who's going to remember the Lord of the Rings? They haven't done anything with it in 20 years. The last thing I remember was The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings Bakshi cartoons, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
And that's another thing. They owe Jackson a lot in this situation too. But
Well, we've now provided a brand new hypothesis.
That's
It's
very
never
true.
been heard on any other channel until now.
Mecha J says, "Go ahead, Andre. Sorry."
Yeah, we developed it, but I think it fits very well with what we're seeing.
The
But anyway,
merging
carry
with
on.
technology meant.
No, I think you're right. I think there was a point where Bezos is like, I don't care what it costs, just go get me that because I want my Game of Thrones.
Yep.
What's the next thing like Game of Thrones? Oh, Lord of the Rings. Okay. And then Mecha J says, you can tell from watching The Rings of Power that the people behind the show have no passion or interest for Tolkien's work at all. No, and this is a big thing we're seeing with a lot of people, and I don't know if Script and Paul can comment on this as writers. And sure, you can't blame some people for seeing the opportunity of a Lord of the Rings or a Star Wars or a Trek and wanting to put that on their resume, even if they're not a fan. Then you have the other side of it, especially when it comes to Star Wars and Star Trek, where we've been told from people on the inside, flat out tell us, do not let them know you are a fan, because if you do, you're not going to get hired because they don't want that headache.
Yep. Yeah. I have it on good authority that people have been fired who have told the writers that what they're putting on camera was not canon. Literally fired.
Yeah.
But again, I'm going back to this comment here of Mecha J. I don't agree with you. You can cover an awful lot of sins by smearing showbiz all over it. You just have to understand how showbiz works. They just needed the hint of Tolkien, and they could have
run with it for a while. Yeah.
Run with it for a while. They just needed the tiniest of Tolkien thread to have made this work. Honestly, someone so it's not about getting the lore right. It's about getting the show business right.
Exactly. That unfortunately is true.
And sometimes that works, and sometimes it doesn't. But you know,
and that makes a good point.
Sometimes
Also,
there's kismet from there, where the showbiz ends up benefiting and being a byproduct of the tone of Tolkien or the tone of the subject matter at hand. They find that sweet spot and they're like, okay, here it is. We've got it. We figured it out. Now we just have to make this grow over the course of the rest of the series.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
that's
it's very difficult to nail that coming out of the gate.
But it's you got to stack the deck at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm. You do that by having a very competent cast, and enough of a just general writing that doesn't have people trying to shoot over their heads, so to speak. That's kind of what these guys are doing. They're trying to shoot over their heads, and everybody else is getting lost trying to follow it.
Well, Marvel is a great example that you don't necessarily have to have something that's exactly like it is in the original creation on the screen, and people will still accept it, right? Because sure, there's some of those Marvel fans who are just not happy unless it's 100% accurate to what they see in the comics. And I'm sure the same could be said for, Tolkien people and Star Trek people for that matter. But as we keep pointing out, especially when it comes to things like Star Trek, we are going to be more fans or general audience people are going to be more willing to accept something that isn't exactly the same as the last thing or in complete sync with the canon, as long as it's just good, right? Like that's what most people give a shit about. Sure, like I said, there's always going to be those people who are just not going to be happy because Tom Bombadil wasn't in The Lord of the Rings. I get it. I've ran into those people who hate all the X-Men movies because they're not exactly like they are in the books. I get that too. But, at the same time, most people will say that X-Men 2 is one of the greatest superhero films of all time, regardless. Why? Because it's a damn good movie. And that's the thing. I think most people wouldn't have cared about this Rings of Power thing not exactly being, a prequel necessarily to Peter Jackson's films and or syncing up with everything, as long as it was just entertaining and good. I see the same problem with She-Hulk, right? You have all the makings of everything that could make a very interesting and compelling show, and you're just wasting the opportunity because you're mired in how much money you're spending, and you're trying to hit this and that and the other demographic instead of just concentrating on one demographic and just hoping that maybe some other people might enjoy it too. And I think that's I think maybe as far as the writing goes behind the shows, and I think you guys are right, is I don't know, it's not the passion aspect. I think it's just everybody's so worried about getting all these demographics instead of just kind of concentrating on like they used to, right? Like,
well, one of the things you have to keep in mind is that you have a lot of fans out there that are very much into the lore, But in conveying the lore, you sacrifice time that can be used for entertainment. That the thing is, you have to find that sweet spot where your entertainment actually
balance,
explores
yeah.
the lore and not the other way around. And you can kind of see their attempt to try and do that in the Rings of Power, but they're just getting lost in their own minutia.
Right. And when they put the interesting stuff into a voiceover sizzle reel at the beginning of Rings of Power, as soon as I saw that, I went, this is looking bad.
Yeah. It's like, this seems to be the part where you start the story, or at least halfway through that voiceover in actual, content, not a voiceover, but like an actual showing us this thing. That's where you would start this story to get us hooked, to get us invested, to get us to see the stakes and the threats and the drama, and then you can carry us a little bit later on, because you've earned our attention at that point. When you provide an awesome scene and as voiceover and as a flashback where there aren't any consequences because it has already happened at this point, you've already caused your audience to check out.
You should be in the middle of the deep shit moment.
Yes. that's the fun of it.
And
I mean, the opening of Star Wars, the Leia's ship is being chased by a giant Star Destroyer. It's not flying around normally, and then all of a sudden nothing's happening, and then all of a sudden the thing comes out. An hour later, it's right now. They're under attack. We don't know what's going on. People are dying. Like,
well, that whole scene is a great example of telling you everything you need to know, of showing and not telling, right?
Pew, 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 pew.
You've got the little rebellion up against the huge empire. They're being overtaken, and you get everything you need to know.
Of that. If you ignore the opening preamble text, all you see is this tiny ship fleeing for its life from this giant triangle cake-shaped Star Destroyer.
It just kept on going over top of our heads and wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
But point is there's no denying that without knowing anything, you see Darth Vader. It's pretty clear he's the bad guy. That's my point. Is it's pretty straightforward, and not one single line is said before any of that shit outside of the droids, and they're just rambling nonsense, about, oh shit, let's move, oh crap, shit's happening. They don't really say what's happening.
Well, the Rings of Power is a mystery box opening. I mean, the premise that this one individual of everybody of many actually believe that Sauron is still alive and is doing something evil, whereas everyone is going, oh no, we defeated him at the battle of blah 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 blah. You're out of your mind. Well, stop with this silly nonsense.
I've got his head on my wall. It's like, that's not his head.
I was waiting for him to constantly say silly girl.
So the thing is, that's actually not a bad idea for
I said actually your show is in that first 10 minutes of explanation.
So
you have this great opening.
Idea that you're the only person who believes it. Where do you go with that? I mean, that's something.
It's the setup though, Paul, and that was my point, because they, like I've said this before, they set up the show. They start out, they're like, we never knew anything of darkness. All we knew was light. Okay, and then you go from that, and then you show, that kid sinking her boat, and then her kicking the shit out of the kid, and then her brother talking to her, and basically you get from that conversation that this is a common problem she has. So it's like you're contradicting exactly what you just said. What you could have had is, like, you say that, you show like a few instances where everything is like heavenly and paradise, and then all of a sudden that same boat scenario happens, but because that boat scenario happens, everybody's going like, why did he act that way and why did she act out that way? And they start to realize that there's a darkness creeping in, and it's Sauron, and she's been touched by it, so she knows what Sauron feels like. And then you have this big battle, and then you have everybody going, well, he's gone, he's dead, and she's like, no, he's still here, something's not right. And you have him and her and anybody else who was touched by the darkness, who still feels Sauron's presence, and they know he's around, but everybody else is convinced he's not. And that's your new fellowship of people who are trying to convince everybody else that this is not over. Yeah. And there's your show. And at the same time,
once again.
And then you also have on the other side, you have elves who keep disappearing, and then you discover, holy shit, they're being turned into fucking orcs. What is going on here?
You just described the Tolkien version of the X-Files.
Yeah, but here's the other part too. Drop the convincing aspect. They give up at that. They just do it themselves because that's the active thing.
That's
you don't
correct.
want to have them spinning their wheels in the mud trying to convince everybody that this is it. Right, like, okay, they're not leaving us. We're going to go do it and probe it to them.
That's what I said. You get a fellowship together. So they're like, let's go. We're going to take him out.
Yeah, I'm all for that. Yeah. Done. We've rewritten it.
And it can be made up of Galadriel, Elrond, and whoever the fuck else you want it to be. Brandy, wine, fine, foot
Get a couple
people.
of humans in there. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
But-
absolutely.
But yeah, no, but the woman has to do it alone. Exactly. That's part of the problem right there. And that's the other thing. They do a piss poor job of setting up how, like, because people are trying to tell me that's like supposed to be 200 years from the point where the war ends and she's still looking for Sauron all this time. It's like, well, if they were stuck with her for 200 years, then yeah, I'd act the same way at that point. It's like, you're dragging us to the end of the earth for what, lady? Right? Like, we've been doing this for this many years. So yeah, they do a piss poor job of setting that whole thing
200
up.
years is a really long time to be
Yeah.
like following her vendetta, being angry and moldy all the time for nothing. I mean, yeah, granted, I get that the elves have a really long lifespan, but 200 years is a really long time. Like, I'm impressed that they haven't rioted before.
2 years would have been long enough.
Exactly. I agree. 2 years would have been quite sufficient.
But somebody pointed out they had to jump that amount of time because there wasn't any Harfoot yet until that point in the history timeline. So they had to bump them up somehow. And it was like, yeah, somebody explained it to me. And I've never read the appendices, so I can't really speak to that. That's why we have people like George.
The hard gypsies. The hard gypsies.
The hard gypsies. Hard
That's
gypsies,
why
tramps,
you
and thieves.
maybe-
That's right.
That's why you maybe shouldn't be filming stuff like the appendices. Maybe they're not fit for a series. Maybe they're a fit for a special here and there. Like, I mean, if I was Amazon, I wouldn't do anything like this
Someone
at all.
who knows the appendices described 3 stories. Each one of them could have been a season. It was very interesting. I can't remember what the stories were, but I went,
And that probably would have been better. I mean, with something like this,
I think others have brought that up
you have
too,
to do an
yeah.
anthology.
they were very
Because
clear.
isn't there one story about like the blue wizard or whatever, and then there's a story about like Sauron and his original form, and something else of like the forging of the rings are all in the appendices or something like that. I can't remember exactly. Somebody will correct me in the chat, but yeah, I think you're right.
Anyway, I have not read the appendices.
I haven't either, so I can't speak to that, but yeah. Linkman247 says, it's disgusting. They put Rings of Power promo images on Tolkien books. I bought the box set illustrated by Alan Lee, avoiding the Rings of Power edition. You know, it's funny you say that. I noticed
We
that
have
all
a
the
video
older,
coming on that.
all the classic editions of the books prices have gone up quite a bit. But you can get those Rings of Power editions for pretty cheap. Like Six even mentioned she got an extra set just so she could do some writing and marking in them, so she wasn't ruining her original editions or whatever. So yeah. Yeah, I saw those at Walmart, even no less. They didn't seem to be selling all that well, but I know I have a trilogy somewhere. I can't remember which one though. But anyway, yeah, good thing you got a better edition there. Member chat says from Sean Carter for 12 months. Happy birthday! Yay, 1 year. Tom, get it 8. It's pronounced Galadriel. How am I not saying what Galadriel?
Yeah, that's more gibberishy.
You also say token, as opposed to Tolkien.
That's the way it was always pronounced to me.
No, it's Tolkien.
I know, Tolkien. I've been
not
trying
like
to do it, but
smoking a doobie.
token.
See, token. It's not token.
That and also the token joke from South Park. That was a fucking awesome episode.
That was pretty awesome.
Wait, your name is spelled Token, Tolkien. Camobot Killer says script. HW has 6 original stories. What are they? What's HW?
Hollywood
Oh,
doesn't
yeah,
have any
yeah, yeah, yeah.
stories. There are plots. There are 7 plots, if I'm correct. Let me just go by my memory.
I was gonna say
here.
I thought it was 7. Yeah.
Yeah. Hold on. There is number 1, which is your comedy. You got your tragedy. You've got your rebirth. There's the voyage and return. There's the rags to riches. Then you've got I've run out of hands. You've got the general quest, and I think you also have like slaying the dragon and overcoming the monster. Those are the 7. Those are the 7 basic plots.
Yeah, and those actually wouldn't be like Hollywood.
You forgot the
of course,
sex
uses
tape.
them, but
That's
they
an
have,
accident.
No, those are always planned. Trust me.
Let Andre speak.
Sorry.
Anyway, point being that of course, that's not just Hollywood though. This is storytelling fundamentally. This is the fundamentals that go way back to before the dawn of history.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
The human understandings of types of story. Yeah.
Well, there's man versus man, man versus nature,
man versus beast.
Those are the conflicts. Yeah. Man versus man, man versus self, man versus nature. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then old boyfriend from high school shows up.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the other one.
That still fits right into the man versus something category. So, yeah.
Man versus beast if he's a big guy.
I'd still call that like the nature, because nature is usually like beast, God, whatnot. Then man versus man is your ex-girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever.
Yeah.
Man versus self is Spider-Man No Way Home.
Man versus Twitter, that's a new one.
That would also be nature.
My pupils
or machine.
aren't dilating.
No, there's man versus machine. I
forgot about man versus machine. Yes. Matthew W says the new elves' ears look like they got them at a clearance sale of Spock Halloween costumes. Yeah, and they're not even Spirit Halloween level.
No.
Even the ones that Mikey got from like Spirit Halloween are better than those. Jeremiah, Hembry sends in $10. Thank you. Says, that's why I say Hollywood to go back to cocaine. Yep, that's why I say capitalism, cocaine, get back to it. I don't care. I'd rather have some of those shitty movies than these shitty movies. Isn't that sad? I'd rather go back to the old shit.
It was good though.
So that's the thing, is the worst of the worst then is better than most of the good shit now.
It's a pretty sad state of entertainment today, but yeah, you are.
Because I enjoyed Top Gun, but newsflash, everybody, it's the same fucking movie as the first one.
No, it's not. There's a plot in Top Gun Maverick.
Yes, the last quarter of the film, I'll give you that. But
no, the whole movie is about we have to strike and destroy this outpost. But
yeah,
there's nothing of that in the first Top Gun.
Well, they have the last minute thing at the end where they have to scramble and become part of it. You're right. That part is set up better. I will give you that. But
yeah,
otherwise, it's still the same beats.
But still, but that is actually the perfect. That's what every movie should be. Because yeah, okay, fine, that's a sequel. But what it did, it took something that was before, and it realized what made it good, and it adapted it to today.
I agree.
And made it the best that it could be today. That's what all of Hollywood should be. Look to Top Gun Maverick. There's your lesson. That's how you succeed.
Well, that's
and also
safe
in this sense,
route, but yeah,
I have to admit, I'm actually really, really happy about the ranks of power failing as badly and as publicly, and that it's costing as much. I think that's actually really good. It's healthy. And it's important, because if you look at it, you know what it really is? Ranks of Power is the epitome of Hollywood gone wrong. There you have everything. To begin with, you have really nasty rights issues, where you have a mix of both incompetence and probably some bit of malice, as Mr. Chato pointed out, that there's a bit of, we'll throw money on this and then it'll go away. But really, this is something that should never have been attempted just for that. Then you also have really horrid creatives in Bad Robot who are completely detached from the audience. Then you have the corruption of the Tolkien estate, who are all about current year and have forgotten all about preserving the legacy. And then you have outright commies doing this, and they want to do it for the message. Again, doing something that's diametrically opposed to what the source material is and what it should be. So this thing right here is the perfect distillation of everything that has gone wrong in film and TV for the past 10 years. And it failed spectacularly. In the same year as Top Gun Maverick is still #1 at the box office 6 months later. There you have the two things juxtaposed against each other perfectly. And also, it failed on streaming. Just to show the fallacy of that.
So you're basically saying Rings of Power is this generation's Cleopatra.
Well, worse than that. Worse than that,
in
the
a
people
sense,
who made
yes.
people who made Cleopatra still wanted to do something big and show busy. That's why
They had the
That's
best
true.
of intentions. So
it's Taylor and Burton. I mean, it was like they threw everything at it. It was dreadful. These people clearly were not influenced by Tolkien. They wanted to teach Tolkien a lesson. They wanted to teach that old white man from England a lesson.
and they wanted to teach all of his fans a lesson.
Both.
Yeah.
They hated Tolkien. They don't like Tolkien. We're rewriting it because he's, it's the producer of the thing. The woman said we're writing it for our present era because it's old man shit. We're done with old man shit. We've got a time we got to present now.
And what's sad is if they'd go back, there's enough years in film now that they can figure out the pattern. It's pretty simple. You want to know what it is? When times are great and we're doing well as a society, we like more realistic, gritty, dramatic, darker films. But when we're coming off of a tragedy or a big war, we want more fantasy type.
But I
films.
don't think they
go
care.
back and look. That's how it works.
But I don't think they care.
No, they don't. But they could have figured it out real quick.
But they don't know anything about the history of film. One, and number two is that the movie studios, no matter how big they were always making deals and what are those things, conglomerate, when they pooled cash, what were those entities called, Andre?
Which entities?
They would get investors together to pool a bunch of cash and then would draw on that cash to make movies.
They get a credit line. There's a name for it, but I don't remember it.
It's not hedge fund, but I can't think of it.
No. Hedge funds are the ones giving out the money.
No. This is my point is
investment group.
I know it, but I forgot it, and I don't remember the English name for it. But anyway, carry on. We get it.
A holding company.
Always looking for cash. They were always not wanting to spend their own. As big as they were always tight, and they were always one movie away from bankruptcy. That was what Hollywood was all about. Companies like Apple and Amazon come in. They've got all the cash in the world. It is totally anathema to the crazy scrambling bullshit that Hollywood existed for in a long time. So, that's the difference. That's where the hubris comes from. That's where the mistakes. Now, it looks like Apple is actually doing it right. They're hiring people who can make the best quality product they possibly can.
Let's not forget Foundation.
Except they're not expanding. Apple Plus is not growing. So notwithstanding that, they seem to at least have an approach that is not throw a shit ton of cash at it like Bezos did with this particular effort. So I don't know. That Hollywood is not used to dealing with companies with endless amounts of cash. And it makes for bad product, I think.
Yeah.
The struggle is good.
The problem is, as soon as they figure out they try to milk them for everything they can.
But there's that too. as any smart producer would.
Yeah. Mike and Ayers says Peter was only riding Tony's coattails because Marvel didn't have the Fantastic Four at the time, and the Tony thing was from the comics to lead into Civil War. Yeah, I didn't have the issue with it as much as most other people did. My point was a lot of the complaints that people were having about the second film, I couldn't argue away because Tony is looming over that second film, literally. Like, and yeah, we got the spider suits and all that business and stuff in those and all the other stuff.
But the spider suits are great for the toy business.
See, what I liked better in that second film is when he was in the black suit, in the tactical suit, more than I did when he was in his other stuff. But yeah,
there was a little bit of the black suit in the third movie.
Yeah. No, but I mean what did he call himself when he was in the tactical suit in the second film? Something like Spider Monkey or something. Like I can't remember what he called himself.
Yeah, Night Monkey or something.
Night Monkey, that's what it was. Yeah. I'm like, I want a Night Monkey movie. London 19657 says, great show team. I'm British and almost 60. Well, that's amazing. Lenny Henry was a nice, funny gut when he means guy. When I was 20, he never was an actor. For some reason, old comedians ripen into actors in Britain. Shaking my head. Well, yeah, that's because here in the USA, even if they're just talking, British people sound like they're a good actor here. That's why they win all the Oscars.
I think that's maybe what the producers were hoping for. Just adding the British accent would improve the film, but would improve the show.
To be honest, I think that's the one place they had a good idea, because they're like, Lord of the Rings is very huge in Britain, right? Like, obviously. But that's the only place they pulled anybody from where you can recognize them.
And also, let's we forget, British talent comes cheaper.
Well, there's that, but what I'm saying is that was like their equivalent of getting an Ian McKellen or something like that.
Yes,
if they would have here. That's what I'm getting at. Instead of like what they should have done is just that, grabbed people from all over the world, maybe, that are really good actors in their own, respect in their own places. But then that will help bring in that audience from that region, right? Like from America, they should have at least found one or two good actors. Same thing. Obviously, you already have the British actor. Find somebody from Australia or New Zealand or what have you. And so on and so on and so on and so on. But anyhow,
as insofar as the Lord of the Rings is kind of this Middle Earth Britishy thing, it was highly influenced by the Nordic stories. There's nothing. Nothing would have stopped the producers of Rings of Power to create one of the groups that they've got.
Well, aren't the elves supposed to be
Sweden or something? Or
I was gonna say, aren't the elves supposed to be Nordic or whatever? They're inspired
perhaps, but the Jackson image of them is so burned into our brains that if they don't do elegant British accents, which they didn't actually for them, if they weren't elegant and kind of Britishy or Englishy, then I think people would have been disappointed. But there's nothing stopping them of
superiority about them.
The Harfoots did not have to be Irish. They could have have a more Scandinavian accent. German could have been more German. All of them. What are we doing here? We are just Harfoots.
That would have been fun. I think that the more Irish type is like kind of like fits with the whole British mythology aspect of it.
Sure, but the Irish are up in arms that they're the ones who are the people with the dirty hair.
Yeah, but
I'm Irish and I don't remember anybody saying anything, but maybe somebody's offended
Irish
on our behalf.
Complaining about being the Harfoots. You got to read
the actual press. Irish, like from Ireland now. Maybe I don't know. They might be wusses now, for all I know.
Irish
I'm not surprised because I'd be offended. If they had been made to be Norwegian, like those dirty, filthy Harfoots, I'd be offended too.
I'm just more offended on that part because they're trying to get me to believe that these eventually will be hobbits, and it's like, no, I don't buy that. The only thing that would really change is that would, the only thing I would say that would be different between the Harfoots and the hobbits would either be the way they farm, but you can't have them living in the earth still like hobbits do and expect us to believe these are the same people. The only thing I could see is you got scared of outside people. Give them a reason for that. And then that's what they pass down the generation.
And the horses and everything else makes them feel like
nomadic. And yeah, that's the thing is I don't see. That's the only thing I can kind of see. Okay, yeah, maybe make them a little bit more adventurous, but I wouldn't necessarily see them as nomadic because they're very homebound people. Right, you got to go off of what the hobbits are. They evolved into that a reason.
So then they should all have had a Hungarian accent or something from Romania. That would have been much more interesting if they were all talking like this. I think that.
Well, the hobbits eventually were supposed to have evolved into people of the Midlands. So I guess take it from there. But
they could all sound like people from the British Midlands. They could all sound like Gary J. Tunnicliffe.
They're all supposed to be like Gary.
Yeah.
There's British accents where you don't understand a single person, like what are they? Geordie. They could have all spoken like Geordies. We would have had just subtitles over everything because you don't understand the Geordie accent at all. That would be funny.
Turning them into basically like gypsies was weird, though. That was
it was a choice. Marksman
of 11-7B says the location with the black elf, those people are related to the Southlands. They are supposed to be brown, not white. They are swapped. They race swapped an ethnic group. Yeah, I don't know about that part, but I do remember there were some groups of that were described as darker skinned in the book, and that's the other thing I pointed out too, that they could have used those aspects to use the diversity. And there's other ways you can put diversity in these shows without making it the way it was. Even though the hilarious bits is even how everybody's coming after the fans for being supposedly racist, yet the only two characters they liked in the goddamn were the two characters of color, which is hilarious to me.
I thought what's her name who played the
dwarf wife
was great.
Dwarf princess,
she was.
and yeah.
Sure,
I
that's
did
part
not
of the
actually
show.
like. I did not like the elf character. He was kind of flat, performance wise. I didn't believe he had chemistry with
Durin.
the doctor chick in the human colony that he was watching. But yeah, Durin's wife, the princess there, she was delightful to watch.
That's what everybody's been saying.
The woman who's having the maybe the fling with the dark elf, I thought she was horrible. If that's the one you're referring to, she
and
charisma.
him are terrible. Like they have no chemistry at all.
Yeah, he's good. I don't mind him at all, although I'm not a fan of the elves, but they had no chemistry.
See, shit like
I
this
didn't even think he was very good either. I was just like, he's very flat, and he's trying to play a Vulcan, I think, as opposed to an elf.
Oh, well, I think he's just trying to be so serious so people don't notice that it's a controversial casting decision. I think he's overplaying it. He's doing an Obama.
Oh,
Obama didn't want to be the first failed black president in the United States, so he overdid not being black.
Well, and on the race factor card here, this pisses me right off.
Lord of the Rings.
This muddies the water when these Holly weirdos decide to virtue signal on this shit, just like we saw with Obi-Wan Kenobi and shit and Ewan McGregor. Six sent me this. This just kind of upsets me.
It's not the diverse casting that's pissing us off.
Exactly.
But Amazon blew it with that first Vanity thing where that was the thing that they played up.
And that's all of these things anymore, and that's something that we always point out. Especially that's why they go to places like Vanity Fair and stuff first,
because that's their only line of defense, is trying to claim that the fans are nasty because they don't like a black elf. No, actually, the real problem is that you failed in the writing and the production areas. That's where the real failure is. When you look at all the criticism, the diversity of the casts, ironically, the two most diverse are the two favorite characters of the show, generally.
What happened to Sam? Sam is based. No, I don't know. I'm kidding. No, Sam is like, I'm not going to hide it. What happened to all the black hobbits? You keep it to yourselves, but I'm not. I'm going to tell everybody. And they killed him. That was a horrible Samwise.
That's terrible.
No, thank you for sending that, Six, even though it's a bit depressing. Bucky Cat is here and says, you think Tom Shippey is laughing about now? No, I think he's horribly upset.
I think so too, because is he vindicated? Well, he's not vindicated.
Yeah.
The only thing is that everyone knows, the entire fan community knows that the moment they got rid of him, that just told everyone this is heading down the wrong track. But of course, he's not laughing. He's devoted his life to preserving Tolkien's work. And even though he wasn't part of the series, they still messed up Tolkien's work and legacy.
Yeah, you can't even really call it a bitter. Yeah, you can't even call it a bittersweet victory of sorts, because you're seeing his life's work being destroyed.
Exactly. He's not vindicated or anything like that. It's basically just he wasn't part of the destruction. That's the only thing. But he wasn't able to stop the destruction.
Yeah.
So ain't nothing there to be happy about.
Yeah. Yeah, but I get where you're coming from, Bucky. But yeah, unfortunately, if I had to take a guess.
One of the worst offenders in not following lore is my brain's gone. The guy did Jaws. God damn it. Spielberg. You can tell he never reads any of the books that he actually does the movies on. I don't believe he reads at all. Seriously. I
You know,
mean,
it's funny because I think somebody had mentioned if he actually would have read the, I think he said it himself, he'd have read the book, he probably would have never said yes to the script or something like that.
no, I
The
don't
Jaws
think he reads
original.
any of, and I think he reads the scripts that he gets, but I don't
Oh,
think
he just said yes to Jaws because they told him what it was about. He didn't even read the script at first.
So
He read the book afterwards and tossed it.
Yeah, it was
and
all
then had to
afterwards.
rewrite
Yeah.
the script. Yeah.
yeah. So from my perspective, it just, he should have been doing Rings of Power. He wouldn't have used any of the Lord of the Rings stuff, and that's not untypical of Hollywood.
No, but that's the thing though. That's a great example though of what they're not doing here, Paul. If you're not going to put the talent in front of the screen, you need it behind the screen. They should have gotten somebody like a Spielberg to handle this, right? Somebody who is a veteran, somebody who knows how to deliver.
Well, and then you've made the best point. If you are going to spend that much money,
exactly,
put it into the hands of someone who knows how to drive the school bus. You don't get the school bus driven by the 14-year-old who hasn't got their driver's license yet.
Exactly. And that's kind of what they did here with these, what is it, Adam McKay, and what's the other guy's name, Andre? It slips my mind.
Adam McKay is a comedic writer.
Or not Adam McKay. Who is it?
I forgot. I have to hear the two names together.
If their names aren't worth memorizing, then they haven't earned their place.
I only remember their names together.
Why would someone hand over $1 billion production to someone that isn't Jerry Bruckheimer or at that level?
Because J.J. Abrams asked them to.
And I do understand that JJ apparently made a promise that he will be looking over their shoulder and make sure that everything is okay.
J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, Amazon is feeling a lot of pain right now. That's for certain.
Well, J.J. Abrams is no Jerry Bruckheimer. Jerry Bruckheimer makes hits.
Not.
Yeah, Jerry Bruckheimer makes hits. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Like the only one that J.J. Abrams makes hits for is his own wallet, at the expense of everyone else.
He's a good self-promoter, let me tell you.
He's a salesman.
Absolutely.
He should
Very
be
good politician.
He should be in management and advertising instead of directing and writing. Like that's where he'd probably be making more money that way. He'd be working more, but he'd be far more busy, but he'd be making a lot more money because he knows how to sell something that's
clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly, and he's able to sell to green behind the ears people that apparently is part of his organization or was part of his organization. And
it's not even the wet behind the ears. He's been able to make deals with people who've been in the industry for decades, which is just boggling. It's like he clearly has.
Well, they believe the hype, evidently.
Yeah.
And if Paulie, if you're going to keep making me laugh in the background here, just get in here. He said that, just face it, this is a gay man's fantasy of Lord of the Rings.
Ooh.
So if he's going to make cracks like that, get your ass in here. Gonzalo Bergali has been a member for 9 whole months. Congratulations. It's a boy or a girl. It says, that's why Angel was the better series.
Angel,
from Buffy.
Yeah, Angel was good.
Nothing against the series. I just never got into it because I could not stand Sarah Michelle Gellar. Not a fan of hers in general, just period.
I thought she fit what it was about at the very beginning. The whole thing about school and being a vampire slayer, which is exactly what Ms. Marvel didn't do. It kind of stopped being the crazy life of a girl at high school with superpowers.
They took her out of it quickly, yeah.
And then suddenly it became this global intrigue and the secret powers of the lords in Pakistan. And I went, what the fuck? Holy Jesus. If they had just followed here I am diverting, but it just drove me nuts. There was the formula. The formula was Buffy the Vampire Slayer from Miss Marvel. That's what it should have been. It would have been a great, charming show. The first episode was fantastic. So,
and Six is right. It probably wasn't made for me, but I enjoyed the film. But I also will acknowledge that the idea had a ton of potential.
The show was fun
for expansion. Exactly. I just never got into the show. That's just me. And I'm not trying to bash the show in any way, shape, or form. So, but no, I enjoyed the film for what it was, and the show just wasn't on my radar, mainly because of her. That's it. Then we got House of Trades, who says, Hill Midnight's Edge, what has Amazon Studios actually made themselves and not purchased from another production house? Let's see here.
Reacher?
Well, wasn't that involved with Paramount though?
The Boys?
The Boys is one of their originals. They did the see, a lot of them, they don't last long because they did the Tick and a few other ones I remember. As far as hits though, I don't think they've had many hits. Otherwise, that's why I'm having a hard time remembering them. I'd actually have to wiki and see what they have produced.
Oh, they did Invincible. That was pretty
Invincible.
popular for Flash. It was, unfortunately didn't last as long in the popularity as I would have liked it, but yeah, that was a really good first season.
Looks like we've got things like Bosch. There's a bunch more, but I'm going to try and name ones that I've actually kind of heard of. The Man in the High Castle. Jack Ryan is on this list. I thought that was under a different company, but evidently they've got it.
No, that's theirs, but the thing is their release schedule is terrible on it. Like they've been making, I think they made 4 seasons, but it's been in production for 8 years.
I just thought like either Paramount or Fox. I couldn't remember which. I thought they owned the rights to it, but maybe not. The Boys, as you mentioned. Let's see here. Again, there's a lot more that I'm not mentioning just because I've never really recognized them. They're behind the I Know What You Did Last Summer thing. Wheel of Time, of course. Outer Range. Reacher, as we mentioned. Terminal List. Rings of Power. Let's see here. The Tick, as I mentioned before. Jean-Claude Van Johnson. That's one I've heard about quite a bit. Yeah, there's quite a few. They've done a lot. A League of Their Own, that more recent one. Invincible, as you guys mentioned. Those are the ones that stand out to me anyway. There's a lot more. They evidently had done an Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle I was unaware of. There you go. Yeah, so hopefully that answers that question a little bit, even though I'm not going through all these. There's a lot. This list just goes on and on and on, and those are ones that kind of stood out to me. So there you go. And then we've got Hyperguyver 2, who says they screwed up by not making Celebrimor, I hate saying these names, the main focus, since it was he who was tricked by Anatar to forge the rings and made the 3 to spite Sauron. Yeah, I think somebody had already posited that they think the rings have already been forged. But I remember people were saying something about this too, but I'd not seen the full 2 episodes yet, so I can't comment. What about you guys?
That would be one heck of a twist, but yeah, wouldn't surprise me from these writers. Like logically, if you just follow the appendices and stuff like that, you would think that the Rings of Power should be in the future. But yeah, actually, that would be like one of the like Bad Robot attempts at a twist. Oh, they're already made. Yeah, actually, I can see that coming. That's not a horrible theory.
Mm-hmm. Then we got It's Time for Hollywood to End, saying, how do they course correct? Can they? Could they cut their losses for season 3 onwards? It's embarrassing enough as it is. Maybe at that point, depending on how it works. Because if I remember correctly, like say our understanding of Discovery was there was originally like a 5-season deal with a out clause in the 3rd season.
Something like that.
So they're probably stuck. You're probably right. They're probably stuck doing at least 3 seasons to where at that point, then maybe it's cheaper for them to get the fuck out of it than it is to pay them for the last 2 seasons. That's very possible. Other than that, though, we have no idea as far as the contract goes. But as far as course correcting, oh yeah, there's plenty of time to course correct for season 2. I just don't know.
They're going to try.
I don't think they can for season 1 now, though.
Yeah, no, not for season 1. They can try for season 2. I'm sure that but here's the problem, though. Then they are going to have to try to interpret what did we do wrong, and how can we fix this as early as possible. Like season 1 is too late to change. I don't think there's going to be anything like that. But season 2, they're going to try. But just look at other times when they had to guess and interpret. Like for instance, Star Trek Discovery, where every single new season is a course correction from the previous season.
True.
Yep. It's a reset almost every time. Course. Yeah, they're still off.
And they never were able to find the right course. And these are the same basic kind of people. This is yet another Bad Robot offshoot. and then they have to try to figure out what's wrong. Why don't the audience respond to our brilliance? Okay, we have to come up with something else brilliant then, but they're not able to identify the real problem, which is them, and they don't have the without being able to do that analysis, they're not going to be able to find the cure. So I do believe that they will try to course correct, but I also believe they're going to fail. Just
Andre,
like
I think
powers that be behind Star Trek Discovery.
I think you hit a nail that we did accidentally miss earlier, and that is just their hubris in general.
Yeah.
Right. Like they cannot admit defeat in any way, shape, or form, especially like a great example is that one writer who got fired from Superman and Lois. And she's like, I know it can't be because I'm a bad writer. It's got to be because of the color of my skin. I was fired.
Exactly. There you have it.
So you have that kind of mentality in these rooms to where they can't even admit the fact that it's not us. We're not the problem. And that's why we're seeing all this shit. We're not the problem. It's them. It's those racist fucks. And regardless if they know that they're gaslighting us or not, at that point, they have convinced themselves of this shit. That's the other problem. And they got their heads so far up their ass that they're convinced they can't do no wrong. So anyway.
I do believe that's a big issue, yeah.
Six did send me something here in the background for comparison. We have some episode 3 numbers for House of the Dragon, if you're interested.
Sure, I'm sure that
2.5 million. Looks like there was a bit of a drop.
Oh, okay.
And HBO has not brought out the numbers for the digital viewing. So there you go. So a little bit of a drop for episode 3, which is understandable. You're going to have that sometimes.
That's not a Labor Day weekend, right? So probably people were missed it live. So
that's true.
They were in labor.
Or like me doing twice the labor.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you did the proper celebration of Labor Day.
Yeah, we put up a shelf over top of our garage on the inside where the door slides up. Oh my God. What a lot of engineering that was.
I got a new back door, so yeah.
There, see?
Oh, you finally got that figured out?
Lots of labor. I was bent for 2 days on putting that stupid thing up.
Gabriel Quiroga says, Hail Midnight's Edge, Star Wars, Terminator, Doctor Who, Star Trek, Marvel, and now Tolkien. Okay, see? What will these companies do when there are no more worlds to conquer or ruin?
There will be new worlds. Someone will create some new worlds. Somewhere.
They'll go after Garfield and shit. They'll go after the next tier.
Garfield, Peanuts, Johnny Quest.
I think Johnny Quest is already in their sights.
Hey,
he was white and male
Raj,
enough.
What are we doing, Raj?
Yeah.
Hey,
the show will now be called Raj.
We called Raj. Hey, Johnny.
And he will actually be played by
Bruce Bannon. I remember that. I think that only went one season, but it was really a memorable.
Johnny Quest, yeah.
But I remember it. And Benton Quest, and I always thought Tom Cruise would make a great Rex Bannon.
Yeah,
I don't remember how many episodes they had, but Hanna-Barbera was really good about making sure they get a big order for their first season. So in case they didn't get a second season, they'd had enough for syndication. Usually, that was usually their gig. But
there you go.
That was how Filmation did it too.
Only lasted one season, and look at the ongoing,
great example.
That is in our lives.
They didn't get a second season until 20 years later.
Well, that's the way it goes in Hollywood.
The show was revived in the 80s for 2 more seasons. Yeah. It was technically Saturday morning cartoon, but it still had most of the original cast back and all that business. So
I didn't know they had the original cast back.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure most of them, and if not all of them. Yeah, because I think even then Mel Blanc was still alive and all that business. Yeah, and what's her face was still doing the voice of the 2 girls, and now George was still alive, and Elroy was still the same guy, and I think even Astro was still the same guy. So yeah. Elf says, why is it so hard to get heroic women in cleavage examples? Wonder Woman, Black Widow, She-Hulk.
Well, our Wonder Woman doesn't have cleavage.
No, but she's stunning.
She doesn't.
She's pretty stunning.
In fact, you've seen.
Yeah, I've accidentally seen her in the full.
Is she tall? Is she model tall?
Yeah, she's model tall, but she's got a body.
She got model boobs, from what it sounds like, too.
Wait, you said you saw her in her birthday suit?
Yes.
Yeah, because
how did that happen?
Oh, you haven't heard this story. This is a Midnight's Edge After Dark story.
Oh yeah. So I was at I was in an offices that was being leased out by Warner Brothers, and there's a costume department was on the other side of the hallway, and I'm walking by, and one of the people left the door open as they're taking measurements in the buff for this one actress, and I didn't know who it was at the time because this was before Gal Gadot was Gal Gadot. And I walked by, and I saw in the mirror that was by the door a naked person, and I didn't know if it was a man or a woman because it was just jarring, and I had to do a double take, and I realized, oh, it was a woman. But it doesn't. But they didn't have curves like a woman. They were very flat and thin and scrawny and whatnot. And then later learned it was Gal Gadot, and I was like, "Oh, that's something."
That's nice.
I mean, she has a very pretty
men
face.
Will be jealous of you.
She has a very, very pretty face, which we've all seen on film. But she does not have a very feminine body.
Let's just say that outfit helps fill it out a little bit. Yeah.
Well, I mean, her entire leather chest piece and all that stuff is all completely artificial.
Doesn't it kind of add some hips to her too a bit?
It adds hips, it adds breasts, things she doesn't have, which I don't blame her for because I mean she's just not built that way. But
sounds disappointing, says Paulie. Yeah.
She was strong enough to be a member of the IDF for 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that was compelled because that's
but you still got to hustle your shit, man.
Yeah, you do. I mean, they don't kick you out; they just drag you through it, though.
That's true.
How do I break up two Canadians, eh?
Okay,
settle down now.
Eh? Just wait until
he's about to raise his voice here. I thought I might have to get involved here. Don't need to get so rowdy.
Well, I know why you want me on these casts because I'm the only one brave enough to show his face.
That's true.
Well, that was true. We have someone else in the wing who's also brave enough.
Hey, Paulie!
But he has a pretty face, so that helps.
Hey,
unlike me. Who wants to look at that for 2 hours?
I like
I'm muted. What's going on, handsomes?
Hey, what's up?
Just
¿Cómo está?
Down for the gay musical of Ring of Power. It's coming out on Broadway.
He puts the ring on his magic finger.
The only explanation I have for this.
It's a gay musical?
Yeah, because you were not impressed with the Rings of Power. I remember hearing the story.
You saw it on the big screen, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You saw it with Chris.
Yes, we did. Yeah. That was pretty painful. And it's kind of like the opposite reaction with House of Dragons that me and Romy are really enjoying. It's so funny what you guys were saying earlier with the casting. It's all in the casting. Like Chato was saying, if this actor had a smidgen of gravitas of something dynamic going on, we would forgive a lot.
Yes,
we would forgive a lot, which is what's going on in House of Dragons. But House of Dragons is pretty badass. But there's just so many more problems with Rings of Power than just the lead, and unfortunately, it's so centered around this lead. I think she only has one expression. So
yeah, like slightly angry, right?
Kind of like Mikey Spock.
We'll do two: slightly angry and slightly unhinged.
Did anybody else hear 1952 calling?
No. Why? What's going on?
Paul got it.
Yeah,
it's his phone.
It's my phone.
Oh,
hey, how's it going?
Back to the future. Actually, that's my Matrix phone. As soon as I answer that, then I'm in red pill land.
Yeah, but you were going off about the actors in the texts you were sending me here, Paulie. So I figured you wanted to chime in on that. But before you keep going here, House Atreides sent in $5 Canadian. Says, besides Peter Jackson, who would each of the panelists pick as a showrunner for Lord of the Rings series?
Who do I?
Can we pick from any time frame? Because I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, right now is a tough time. Because like when I stop and think about it, it's like shit. Things like Michael Bay that Jerry Bruckheimer that Paulie brought up. Yeah,
Or
Jerry
just
Bruckheimer's
Showrunners?
not.
Yeah,
But
sure.
showrunner, yeah.
Well, probably whoever worked on House of Dragons want to do something similar.
You know, I'm kind of surprised at how stupid Bezos is. He didn't try to go after D&D for this show.
Well, not even he was stupid enough to go after them after seeing how they botched season 8. Like, no one wants anything to do with them. Like, they're finished
Right.
in the industry, I would
I
imagine.
honestly, I can't think of anybody right now that I would give this responsibility to, other than Jackson or maybe. I hate saying the name because he always comes up, but he's the only one I can trust. Jon Favreau would be one of the only other ones, because anybody else is, and I wouldn't even consider him necessarily. Like, we're starting to see the cracks in his show running abilities right now in Star Wars too.
Those are different animals, directing and even being a creative.
A showrunner and a creative,
Right.
yeah.
Well,
In that
showrunner
respect.
is more on the writing side of things, and you're controlling the show, and you have to work with directors that you bring in on rotation to execute that show. So, yeah, you need someone with a great understanding of that business dynamic and how to balance the budget with the creativity.
As for me, I can't name anyone, but I can name the method. And that is, I would collect the showrunners for like the 10, 15 most unique, acclaimed sci-fi or fantasy TV series of the past 15 years. Doesn't matter if they were hits or prematurely canceled or what. I just want to see where it was something really unique, really consistent, preferably with a unique visual take. And I'd get all of those in the room, and I'd say, whoever comes out here first, you get the
job
to work on Tolkien. I want someone who really wants this. Now fight. Because for that, you need someone that really knows the stuff, and who knows the genre. Doesn't have to be exactly like the Lord of the Rings, but something genre, something sci-fi, something fantasy, and is a huge fan of Tolkien and can apply that. And I would not say Genndy Tartakovsky, far from it. Same with the showrunner of House of Dragon. I would not hire him either,
but
because they like low fantasy. They like the Robert E. Howard kind of fantasy, and you don't want someone like that, because they're going to want to grime it up, make it more like Howard. You don't want that. I love my Howard. I prefer Howard to Tolkien any day of the week. But that being said, you have to remain true to the spirit of Tolkien, and that is very different from the spirit of Howard. So you want someone that understands this has to be something for all audiences. There can be no beheadings. There can be no bashing brains out. There can be no dolphin love scenes. And all of those people, like Genndy Tartakovsky, they would want to put that in there, which is why
part of the challenge is that who has the experience for something this large. For me, to me, I couldn't even think of doing anything like this.
I think the answer's on screen.
Neil Blomkamp.
I think so. He is a Peter Jackson acolyte.
I'd go, yeah. You know what? Yeah, perfect.
But they hate him in Hollywood. You want to know why they hate him in Hollywood? Because the motherfucker won't compromise. That's why.
Exactly. And as long as he's on board with the vision,
he'd have to be a fan.
He won't compromise there. If he can do that, yeah, I agree. Neil Blomkamp would be perfect.
He's not much of a writer, though, and that's what showrunning requires.
You need someone else to. Well, here's the thing: as long as he can come up with like a gist of a story, as if he can come up
it's all
with
there for you, supposedly
Tolkien-ish, and then he can have someone else help it, like you or something. I'd be very happy with that.
What about that up-and-comer guy, James Cameron?
No. You don't want someone like that playing in someone else's
I don't know.
Sandbox, because he's already too established with his own things.
I know.
Many of his own.
He could handle it technical-wise, yeah.
Just the enormity of this thing is just staggering.
But the amount of money they stuck into this, you're right, Paul. Like, I cannot believe they didn't get somebody like like even Kenneth Johnson back in the day was one of those sci-fi guys that he didn't have, he kept getting the shit kicked out of him, but that's the kind of guy they need, right? Somebody who understands this kind of stuff and who has mounted big series like this before. And I mean, I'm not saying Kenneth Johnson because he's probably way past whatever, but like, no, just the point being is you need somebody like that. And for those who don't know who I'm talking about, he created V and what was his other big one?
The Incredible Hulk.
Incredible Hulk. Thank you. So he's that's the kind of guy you need. Somebody who's done things in that. Unfortunately, like J.J. Abrams is one of the only people that you have right now in that level that has mounted these huge fucking series like this.
I don't think you need to have done a huge series like that. I think because look at what Peter Jackson did. He had never done anything huge.
No, but he worked up to it though.
He had work. That's what you want. That's what I said. Like the first thing, I was looking for someone that had show run an amazing series before. It didn't have to be like a huge success, but it had to have like a really unique vision to it. And
I think you're right, Chris.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and that's kind of like the idea that you have to go with there. Find someone who is ready for the upgrade, but that has already mastered the story fundamentals of storytelling.
People are bringing up Straczynski. J. Michael Straczynski. Shane Weistroke sent in $2 to say Kenneth Branagh. He'd understand like the elegant acting elements of it, but and some of the fantasy stuff. But I wonder how much of a Tolkien fan he really is in general.
I would not want him anywhere,
because we just actually had a
director.
conversation about Branagh, and he is a good director and an actor when he's involved in something that works within his wheelhouse, and you can get him excited for it.
Exactly, and that's not Tolkien.
Okay, I'm gonna throw out two names.
Go for it.
Chris Columbus or Brad Bird.
Ooh, the latter I like.
I like Brad Bird.
Even though he wrote one of my favorite films of all time, Columbus is a bit of a wild card.
I think he's underrated. He's very good with, I think, sticking to the. I think what he did to set up the Harry Potters was fantastic. He did a brilliant job setting the table. And that's one of the things that they didn't do in this show is set the table.
Well, here's the thing. He wrote the original script for Gremlins, but the version that we know, that's more Steven Spielberg Gremlins and Joe Dante Gremlins than it is Chris Columbus. Have you ever read the original script?
No, I have not.
Yeah, he had a good kernel of an idea there, but it needed other touches. So he may have been able by that time, but after getting the, as far as building up, like he's basically a good example of what Andre's talking about. He built his way up through, because didn't he direct like Home Alone and a couple other things just before he did Harry Potter, to where he was just starting to get into that?
Not just before, but before, yes.
Yeah, to where he moved his way up into that kind of a filmmaking instead of just...
if we're arguing between Chris Columbus and the two people who are doing it now, I'm sorry.
I would take Chris Columbus in a heartbeat. No doubt there.
And that's my point. And Brad Bird would have the sensibility to get it right, I think, right off the get-go.
I hate to bring in Gareth Edwards because he's fucked up other things, but
Gareth Edwards, he'd be a lateral move at this point.
Okay, because I can't think of anybody else. Damon Lindelof. I don't know. I don't even like these names. So
you gotta. I mean, I'm looking at the chat. So many people are throwing in directors' names, but
I know. That's what I'm trying to.
Difference, like. You're looking for screenwriters, television writers, people that can actually run a show. Directors are so irrelevant in the TV world.
Yeah, and Luc Besson, isn't he canceled on top of it all right now?
Luke
wrong visuals, wrong everything.
Interesting choice, though.
Interesting choice, but it's too far away from what he does. I can't see him doing something like that.
Now, Noah Hawley is a name that keeps popping up.
Luc Besson, you want him for sci-fi. You don't want him for high fantasy.
What did Noah Hawley do before he's working? Because he's working on that Alien show now, and he was attached to Star Trek 4 for a hot minute.
Fargo?
Yeah, Fargo is what he did.
I mean, I think it's a little out of his genre house.
That's what I was curious about, yeah.
Yeah.
Guillermo del Toro's I wouldn't know. He's not a showrunner.
You wouldn't go for.
He doesn't know how to keep track of time either. He's such a creative.
Yeah, he's very
You could
Yeah.
hire him, but you wouldn't see a show for 25 years.
Exactly.
And he also
Well, you would hire him
ruined
to
The Hobbit.
Yeah, you would hire him to write the whole series, to be like that
A
executive
creative idea, maybe, yeah,
Mhm.
because that's
but
kind
not
of
to
what
run
they
a
do with The
show,
Hobbit. Yeah,
not to work with. Yeah,
Guillermo's a lot like Kenneth Branagh, where if he's got to be very passionate about it, because once he loses interest, it's done.
Yeah,
he's never going back. We've learned that time and time again. How many things has he announced that he's never done?
He would have gotten every single character right.
Oh, no argument there, but I mean, here's the thing:
But
is I'll never forgive
him as a showrunner.
I'll never forgive him for him to. He is the reason The Hobbit is the way it is. Half of the problem, anyway. At least the other half of the problem was the studio insisting it being 3 movies.
3 movies, yeah.
But
him
losing
or
Guillermo for walking away halfway through it all.
Well,
he didn't stick with it.
Well, because it was like too long of a wait, bro. That shit was like taking years of his life. He's like, I gotta go.
But what did he do in the interim, though? That's my point. He announces 20 different things he never does.
Well, I think we can say that he's really like a creative auteur, type.
Well, that was my point. Is he's like Kenneth
really
Branagh. He needs to be in. He's in 100% when he's in.
But
once he
Branagh's
loses any kind of interest, it's
Branagh can fit that commercial, get those out like the Agatha Christie reruns.
Yeah, but again, we're not talking about showrunners here. We're talking about fucking directors and stuff like that. Like Script's saying.
So I'm ready for my list, but we can wait on your thing. Man.
Okay, you have a list for showrunners or actors?
No. To recast Galadriel.
Okay. Alejandro Jodorowsky says Life of Brian.
I'd be very interested.
That would be wild.
What he would do with it. I mean,
that's a thought experiment.
Shit, right?
Yeah. Let me just say, I'd watch the hell out of Alejandro Jodorowsky's Lord of the Rings, and I'd have a love-hate relationship.
That'd be like an LSD trip.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But anyone that you mentioned, any one of those, is better than the JJ boys who are running this.
Everyone would be better.
And I would recast Galadriel with Fran Drescher.
Okay, before we get into that, Glade Ribbon says Brad Wright and Jonathan Glasner could handle it. Glasner sounds familiar. I'm not familiar with Brad Wright. So who are these guys?
Well, Glasner's from Stargate SG-1.
Okay, that's why. Okay.
Brad Wright, I think, is also from Stargate. Or
well,
Stargate.
Maybe they could.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, if you want to go in that sci-fi, Jerry Ryan. She's been around for decades and been on a lot of shows.
We're now on Galadriel recast?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're about to get there, though.
2 hours ago, but I'm happy to go back and revisit that because...
No, well, that's what Tom wanted me to come on, but I couldn't get here in time.
You're behind.
Couldn't get here in time. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, that's a little bit more in vain. I was gonna say, that or pillage like older classic Star. Is there anybody maybe from the old Star Trek regime maybe that could still?
Well, Jerry Ryan was one of them. So
besides that, maybe, but yeah. But all right, so Paulie,
Jonathan Frakes, I would trust with this.
You think so?
Yeah, he's a good
to direct it. Yeah,
he's a
maybe
good
to direct
potatoes guy that can crank this stuff out.
That's the problem. He's too much of a company man to be a showrunner, though.
No, but you hire other people to write around you. But I mean, I think he's very underrated as someone who can manage.
Hey, we got George in the chat.
Oh yeah, we're gonna be on a show tonight.
But okay, so Paulie, real quick, you want to recast Galadriel since we didn't really come up with too much.
SS Rajamouli. I'm sorry, Tom. I want Rajamouli to stay the F away from Hollywood.
George says SS Rajamouli for $19.99. I'm going to send you the link, George, if you're not too busy.
He needs to stay out of Hollywood.
We're going to get through this part, and then we got a few more super chats to do, and So who's your casting choices besides what is the name? Okay, I don't even know the name of the actress who plays her now. So let's acknowledge the actress.
Clark.
Thank you.
Who would you replace Morfydd Clark with?
Okay, so they're obviously trying to go for a warrior Galadriel, right? Which doesn't make sense because it doesn't make sense on a lot of levels. But as a warrior, you just I don't believe Morfydd Clark's physically at all, or as an elf. So if you're going to go that route, why not, raid the Vikings female cast right away. Look at those. Alyssa Sutherland is very alien, fairy looking, very slender. Raga Ragnars is a warrior and very beautiful in Vikings. Gaia Weiss, the same thing. Okay, so those would be like if they were doing the warrior Galadriel, right? Like get those women in first. They're amazing to watch. Now, because they did kind of cast shorter, you could get Alicia Agneson or even Catherine Winnick. The only thing is that they may be a little too sexy looking. Female elves maybe shouldn't really be too. They're more innocent, kind of like angelic, like.
But if you're going for a warrior queen, kind of like, you can't do better than Catherine Winnick.
You can't. You really can't. And she's still like in her prime. Natalie Dormer, which is kind of like they kind of have done those type of roles as well. They're proven to be sexy, badass, amazing female leads. But why not go with the OG who was already in them and who still got the looks and the gravitas? Miranda Otto, who played Eowyn in Two Towers and Return of the King. She had like the best female arc in that film. Okay,
she was great.
She was great. I just rewatched it again. This is fantastic. Now on a lower level, not lower level, but just kind of like outside more, like not, those are my tops. So that's almost like what, 8 women? That's 8 women right there, guys. Chloe Moretz. Fran Drescher. Chloe Moretz. She's really grown into a beautiful, beautiful lady. She's got that alien look a little bit. Her face might be a little too round if they're really being picky. But she was the little female superhero in Kick-Ass. She's she's quite the actress.
She was good.
She would have been amazing. Another outsider, but as far as as I'm going down my list, it's kind of like less likely. Maybe to cast for Luthien, the dark-haired elvish character, Millie Bobby Brown.
A little masculine though.
Well, if you're going for Warrior Galadriel, then that's okay.
She's a good actor,
and maybe a couple of years, okay. Anyone but who we have, and I love actors. I live with one. We got a bunch of auditions to do later, but I'm just like, this is just how I feel now. If we were going more kind of like, so all those that I mentioned, they all have that Northern European look, Andre. They got that look down.
I have one.
Yes. Fran Drescher.
Anya Taylor-Joy.
You know what? She came up. Absolutely. She's playing Furiosa right now, so she's
luminous.
Yeah. A lot of these actors probably just said no because of the time commitment.
Probably.
Issei Gonzalez, who's been in a lot of films, beautiful, slender, tall. She's got that Amazon look going.
Yeah, she's gorgeous.
She's absolutely gorgeous, and her English has gotten to a point where you can really not tell the accent, but the accent could probably work as an L. You're just so taken with her beauty, and she can act. And then outside, Martina Garcia, she's got that she's got a good look to her, but that's just more like, again, she's a Colombian actor. I would pick her over Clark any day. But that's my list, man. What do you guys think?
Very good list.
Yeah.
Very good list. What it was.
Cool. Ooh, Anna. Yeah, the chat saying Anya, yeah. Trisha Helfer is maybe 10 years ago. For sure 20, Brightest Day. I think she's a little past her prime. Charlize Theron, same thing.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's too late for that.
Too late,
That,
but yeah.
that train has gone. That has left the station.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, these are all. You guys are giving a Sylvester Stallone as Galadriel.
Saoirse Ronan would be all right.
sorry, it's still coming. You don't believe me.
I'm the
I'm
Samaritan.
telling you. Mr. Tickle Trunk says, true to canon doesn't sell seats, entertainment does. Yes.
Yep.
This is true.
Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk.
Mr. Tickle Trunk says 50 Shades was also fan fiction, plus was successful. This is
Well,
also
it was
true.
the behind the closed doors of fan fiction. Like that's basically what it was. Is like you're never gonna get on screen those two Twilight people in bed, but if you did a fan fiction of it and then changed the names, it satiates the desire from those people that liked that content. It's
Yes,
a travesty that it was made. That it was what it is.
It is what it is. Got a lot of people laid.
But hey, there's an audience for everything, and obviously,
definitely.
I don't have a problem with it. My problem is they're trying to converge audiences. That's what I was trying to get at earlier. Recall says with 10 fancy pants euros. Thank you so much. Why can't any more see the Rings of Power banner on suggested shows scrolling on the top of Amazon Prime streaming page? It is true for me. Can you confirm it? Some people have noticed that. Let me see. I'm going to go to mine real quick. See what comes up.
Yeah, because all we have is like circumstantial evidence.
This is true. This is true.
Okay, what am I looking at? My Prime or just Amazon regular?
Yeah, Sonic 2 is the headline on mine.
Okay, I don't see anything yet. Prime Video. I can tell you
I hope I don't
that
dox
the
myself
packaging
doing
is
this.
still the packaging
no, I
is
think
still
I'm okay.
the packaging when you're getting Amazon
see,
Prime packages is still
Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is at the top of mine. Then Wheel of Time.
So when you're getting packaging,
very
guys,
interesting. What do you think that means?
And this is what I think they mean by samples.
Wow.
This is also what I think that means by samples. Remember they were talking about
Leave
that?
that there long enough, that's going to be a view.
Exactly, a sample view. Reacher, Untrapped, the original Lord of the Rings.
Yep. I said that's going to get a lot of play
Cosmic Love, making the cut. Still no Rings of Power. Oh, that's it. I can't go no farther. So there you go. We have actual live video evidence that they have. It's not on the lead banner.
You want
Now
to see
use
mine?
your Surfshark, change your state to another part of the country, and let's see if it's different there.
You want to see mine?
That's a problem right now. Andre needs. I've been bugging him for the password for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's interesting.
So this was
Mr. Chato, I have a
Yeah.
question, because now we have circumstantial evidence that they're not pushing the Rings of Power as badly as they did just a few days ago, because it didn't come up right there. What does that mean? If you were an executive and suddenly a show that you have put everything in, it really doesn't do the kind of success, and now we have more people reporting, it's no longer being pushed. What does that mean?
I know what it means, but I wouldn't stop pushing it. That's the dumbest strategy I could possibly think of. I mean, you basically have to ignore every bad thing and you just go for it.
And I looked, somebody said it's not. No, my first thing is Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
I just did it again.
We should
And
see
then
if it
it's
changes.
Wheel of Time again, Reacher, and so on. It's the same thing all over again.
I would recut a reel for it with the best footage that I've got, and you just pretend that everything is great.
But I also, Tom, would check to see if this changes on Friday morning or Thursday night.
Well, I'm sure it varies, because here's the reason why I think Sonic is first for me, and maybe for Uber B-Man too. Do you use Amazon to watch Paramount Plus through? Because that's where I have my Paramount Plus subscription through. So that's probably why that's the first one that's offered to me in this case. But it's not Rings of Power. That's the whole point.
I'd have to go upstairs to check the Amazon account over.
I can tell. Oh, look at this. Prime previews for you. They're pushing Lord of the Rings. They're pushing the original Jackson movies.
The original Jackson ones.
Let me just share it one more time. But this is a nice.
And evidently, Sonic 2 is on Prime too. So there you go. So that's probably another reason why.
Look at that. That's just me scrolling down from here. Okay, here's the top. I scroll down. Look at that.
I seen a half a boob.
Oh, booby. So, yeah. I mean, I'm seeing more Lord of the Rings. And then we just bought Top Gun.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
Lost City.
Lost City.
It's no mistake that RoboCop and stuff like that are high on those lists because that's the MGM ones they just acquired. One of them.
Good point.
Yeah.
One of the best movies of all time.
It is
The
indeed.
original is, yes, but the remake is the one they have on that list there. Even though the remake isn't horrible, it's, yeah.
The original is
Car-
great.
Oh, God, yes. One of the greatest films of all time, yes.
Yep.
Sean Carter says, my cousin was in Hollywood for 40 years. Poor him. He told me the last 70s and he told me last in the 70s and 80s, if you were on a crew and didn't do coke, you weren't trusted.
That's true.
Yeah.
I can see that.
No, that's
I mean,
true.
that's how Trejo got into the business, is that he was sponsoring an up and coming actor who just couldn't stay away from blow on set, and he went down to the set and Trejo got discovered. But there's blow all over the place. This is the 70s.
Yeah, hell yeah.
You know,
I would.
I don't
say
think
even
blow ever
in
left.
the 90s when I was down there. You know, if you were completely clean, they didn't trust you.
I can see that.
They're kind of nervous. They prefer to be around like-minded people.
People that they could blackmail a lot easier. That's usually the term.
Mm.
I mean, that's basically like that's why I slowly stopped getting invited to parties, because I would drink along with them, but I would never be anywhere drunk, and I'd be the one calling cabs or Ubers for them to get home, and they'd be very upset that next morning I'd be fine and they'd be hungover. And it's like, well, I'm Canadian, so our alcohol content by default is more than we're used to.
The lesson learned is act like you have a hangover.
Yeah,
Yeah.
act drunk. Well, I did.
Some people did that.
I did go into an unnamed studio late at night just to pick up some stuff I forgot, and then walked into the boardroom and saw a very high up individual boyking the secretary, and then I just quietly closed the door and left. They didn't see me, hear me.
Did you get your backpack?
Pardon me, what?
Did you get your backpack though? Did you get your stuff?
Yeah, I got my stuff. Yeah, let me. Excuse me while you two are fucking.
You guys have a great time.
Don't mind me.
I gotta get my briefcases.
Getting my notes before you splooge all over them.
Well, the great comedy bit is that
can
like
you lift
like,
your leg just a little? Thank you.
Yeah,
Can you lift your leg? It's my binder's under your leg. Can you just lift your leg? Thank you very much.
Oh, but I have to get my jacket. Can you guys lay off my jacket, please?
Lean into her. There we go. Thank you.
I can tell you right now before I.
And he gives you a high five as you walk out the door.
Good job.
Sorry, what was that, Paul?
And I'm just saying it's okay. Anyway, so yes, that could have given me a lot of schlep if I had revealed what I had seen, but I kept it to myself.
Yeah, I'm sure in Hollywood it's easy to see a lot of things you weren't meant to be seen.
Shocking. People on the boardroom table.
Yeah, Camobot Killer says, Midnight's Edge thoughts on Dan Lin saying no to DC director. Well, this is something we were going to kind of address, and it's not really something that requires a shit ton of discussion on. But since Paulie has to leave us, let's give you your first crack at this, and as you head out the door. What's your response to Dan Lin getting the headlines that he is no longer in the run?
I'm not the person to,
Nope.
I leave it to you guys on this one. Didn't do my reading, so I wouldn't.
Well, check out the Latino Slant and Midnight's Edge Espanol. That's where you'll find Paulie, and you're going to be doing something later on with Paul, you said. So Paul and Paulie?
No. George, the Giant Slayer's coming.
Oh, George, that's right. Never mind. My bad. Yes, that's right, George.
That's tonight. And then Midnight's Edge Espanol has moved.
It was last
live
week you
show.
did the thing with Paul on the.
I'm trying to set up a camper van tour of the United States with Paulie.
Yeah, we're gonna do. We're gonna do something. We're gonna do something.
Yeah, we'll talk to Mexican Iron Man.
Talk to Mexican Iron Man. But two things: Georgia Giant Slayer tonight. It's a late show, 8 p.m. Pacific. and we're gonna burn down, kind of what we're doing here. We're gonna have a great time. And then Midnight Edge Espanol live has moved to Saturday mornings, and we'll keep reminding people. But also, too, we are now releasing 2 to 3 new videos every week on the channel.
Cool.
Yeah, really got some new contributors, and it's very exciting. Some new blood, along with Diego and Geek Tropology. So yeah,
awesome sauce. All right, tell the boys I said hey, and take care of yourself, Paulie. And
Quel Uratil.
What's up?
Quel Uratil. Oh, it's 2:55. We should be wrapping up.
Yeah.
Yes, we're getting close.
Take care, guys.
Yeah, well, Andre and I are stuck here till these super chats are done, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but thoughts on
Dan Lin
saying no? I have some thoughts, but who wants to go first?
I don't.
I will say if he was offered and said no, that's the smartest thing he could have done.
And I would say he was never offered. Because
I don't think that's the case.
Because I mean, this is poor man's Walter Hamada. Walter Hamada had more on his resume to suggest that he would be a good fit to run DC films than this guy. I think that everyone is better off by him passing on. That there was nothing at all based in his previous work to suggest that he in any way, shape, or form was a good fit for this.
I don't think he got to pass on it. I think he was told they're not interested.
Yeah.
Because he was not a name that I ever really heard come up in the first place. And in the second place, I think he got a meeting, and that's where his people ran to the press with that to try and generate some buzz around it.
That's what I think too.
But I also am curious in this respect if this doesn't necessarily mean they may not have made a choice now, because why else? They haven't gone to the press with anybody else's names who's been out there going, yeah, no, they're no longer in the running, at least not to this level. So I think that there's something going on. As far as this goes, I think it was that or Dan Lin just got feisty and whatever negotiations were going on. Because I'm not saying they may not have, at least considered him, because he does have a semi-decent resume. But as Andre pointed out, he basically has the same resume as Hamada. And in that respect, it's like, why are you going to do the same damn thing all over again? So I agree with you, Andre. I don't think he was ever necessarily offered it. And if there was any discussion that was going on, it broke down pretty damn quick. Because we're also hearing he was also trying to plug for his production company. That was the big deal.
I think he just wanted to get his own name out there. He was never a serious contender. But moving on.
Yep. Paul, you had anything to add? Script? No? You said you had something to say about it, Andre, but yeah.
Here's this point.
But you said moving on, so.
I wouldn't be surprised if Alan Horn becomes the head of this by the end of the year, just because they can't find anybody. And
de facto?
Yeah, de facto.
That would be a disaster.
Coming back into the fold?
Yep.
Well, they've already got Jim Lee kind of running that role as far as a de facto kind of in between, I heard. So that's the thing. And I'm not saying that he's one that they haven't really he's not a candidate as far as I can tell. But
no, he's going to be staying primarily on the publishing side of things.
Right. But then again, we also are hearing that Todd McFarlane's coming into play in that respect too. So it'll be interesting to see in the next few weeks. But a real quick question here that is poignant. Who is Alan Horn? Alan Horn was a gentleman who more recently worked with Disney under the Iger regime, but his heyday was at Warner Brothers. But he's somebody who's on the verge of, or should be on the verge of, retirement. So he was brought over as a consultant at Warner Brothers for Zaslav under the what is the word I'm looking for? Auspices, or with the intention of trying to turn DC into a new Marvel. And I think it's going to blow up in their face. That's just me right now.
But moving on, we have plenty.
Yes, we do. We have super chats here. We've got STR Red Wolf, who says Apple is limited by their own policy by keeping on their own platform, iTunes, iOS devices. You can't see Apple TV stuff on Android phones or via web. This is one of the reasons why I haven't adopted Apple for anything.
Exactly. But also, this is a choice that they have made. They are first and foremost in the tech business. They are not in the entertainment business. To them, the entertainment business is just a means to drive their tech. So this is by design.
Apple TV is on my Google dongle.
Yeah, I can get Apple TV on my Windows 7.
That's
I don't
about the
know.
only thing you can. And I can use iTunes on my computer, but it's wonky as fuck, and I don't like it because it's very proprietary.
Well,
Like
that's
I have to have
thing.
it to play the shit.
Yeah, but Apple TV is available on Roku, on Google, on
It is. I couldn't get it to work on my
on Fire, on Fire Stick. It's available on the Fire Stick. I mean,
Yeah, there are different options there, but still, it's a tech company first and foremost, wanting to push their products, so they're just owning the production chain.
Pinochet's Helicopter Tour says hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. I think Tom referenced. In a way, yes.
This is very true, and we're living.
And the same can be said for Hollywood. It's just kind of how the ebb and flow of entertainment goes. When things are good, you're going to have a lot of shows about aliens and stuff like that are popular, and when things are bad, you're going to have
social
vice
justice.
versa. I meant the other way around, but yeah. You know what I mean. Mecha J says everyone says that Tolkien would hate Rings of Power, but imagine his son Christopher, how his son Christopher would feel. He spent his years, basically his last years, protecting his dad's work. Yeah, that's where I think the biggest travesty is here, and this is where we're going back to our original conversation that Paul and I were kind of, I think, coming at from two angles, but meeting somewhere in the middle, is that I really think at this point the Tolkien estate has zero interest in conserving the legacy of Tolkien so much as it just does in cashing checks and finding a way to cash checks.
Absolutely.
And this whole thing was made off a loophole, basically. So
yeah. So they are very guilty in everything that happens here.
They've made some money. I don't feel there's no tag day for them.
No. Dark Winter says, "You fool of a took, throw yourself in next time." I know that wasn't a very good Ian. I'm low energy though. Sorry about that. Warachi has been a member for 6 months at the Edgelord level. Quick to the virtue signal. That will teach those dirty istophobes. That's right. Ryan says, who in the Tolkien family will allow Disney to buy, or Amazon to buy, why did I say Disney? To buy these appendices in the first place? That's my point, is it was, they looked at the deal that they could do and make, and they made the deal, and it had everything to do with this is all the things that they could use to, as far as licensing it out, and the show had to be so many episodes and whatnot for it to fit in the loophole, and yeah.
Yeah, well, but the fundamental, what you're really asking is who in the family? Well, there's no one that cares about Tolkien's legacy in the family. For the remaining family, Tolkien is just their cash point. That's it, no more. And they decided that Amazon is going to make us all filthy rich. So let's make it happen. There was no more to it.
I think the Amazon deal was somebody went over with the cassette, the VHS cassette of Lord of the Rings, and then they sold it to Amazon. And then when Amazon opened it, it was just another show inside it entirely.
Yeah. And with that, we regrettably are losing Paul.
And we have one super chat for you, Paul, if you can hang out for 1 second here. Let me find it.
I am running a global website development business. So
I think this is the one 6 is referring to. Mecha J for $20. Sean isn't that cringe photo. Oh no, this isn't the one. Never mind. Where'd it go? Hey, here we go. Hey Chato, tell me about big green jiggly ass. Actually, that's a good place to go with that, because that way you can plug your new video on your way out.
That way I can plug my latest video about the secret Marvel 3D artist who worked on the She-Hulk's yiggly ass. So just go to my channel, search for Call Me Chato. It's turned into a very funny video that people have universally enjoyed.
Hey, I'm knowing you. I've seen you in the bread line.
That's right, the yiggly ass, and that looks like that term is now taking off.
I am very mad at the Disney Plus and the Netflix. They are not letting me see my Spider-Man No Come Home. You've seen this?
We could have dinner together. So
you're making the She-Hulk.
Making She-Hulk. So that is. Thank you very much, Captain Palsy, for bringing that up.
Big green jiggly ass.
Anyways, yes, it's the She-Hulk is a meal that one can dine out on for a long time.
Tell my friend he did good job. I think she is good childbearing hip. She make
Well-
lots of babies.
Very good. You don't want North American woman who has her own mind.
Very strong Hulk womb. Make lots of strong
Yes,
babies.
you want woman who goes for career and then at 30 can no longer bear children. Forget about it. We go to very nice Russian women who will happy to raise your children for you.
Exactly. And thank you, Paul, for being
Oh,
here today.
Thank you for inviting me as always.
Check
Well,
out Paul's
hopefully
channel. Call
we'll
me
see you on
Chato.
Friday, maybe.
Absolutely.
That is the plan.
Absolutely. Anytime you want, of course.
I'm available. Do
Perfect.
svidania.
I hear it. So check out his channel. I'm sure that one of the mods will be sharing the link in the chat anytime soon. Also
And
check
it's
out.
also in the description.
And it's also in the description. And Script Doctor is waving goodbye as well.
Thank
Yep.
you very
Bye, Paul.
much. Do svidania, everybody.
Take care. All right, let's get back to these super chats here. We've got Philip A. Demick, who says, talk about medieval movie this weekend from KNG. I did not see this. What is this about?
No.
Medieval movie. I'm not familiar with it. Not at all. I have to check this out. So we're going to have to circle back to you on that because none of us are familiar with it.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not familiar with that one. Last Millennial says, oh, Tom, so serophobic. I know. I'm all the phobics. Mecha J says, this is finally in the right order. Sorry about that. Sean isn't in that cringe photo with Wood and the rest of them, but he did post a photo of himself on Twitter wearing a hat with the same diversity image as the shirts, saying the line, you are welcome here. Oh, Jesus, they are pushing this. I wonder how much the check they got was from Amazon for this shit. Ugh. Oh, just irritating. Irritating. And then
Meanwhile, I
Camelbot.
checked, and Medieval is a chess movie, which is why we haven't. It looks cool though, so yeah, we'll probably get back to that.
There we go. Six shared something in the chat about it as well. And then we got Camobot Killer, who's become a member. Let's see what level. Don't see it here, but thank you for becoming a member. I'm sure Six probably shared it, and I'm just not seeing it. Thank you for that. And then we have the last millennial. Yeah, and welcome. And last millennial again, who says Netflix is so weird. They want their own Star Wars, but cancel things so quickly and are in so much debt. Do we think they'll be around in 2025 to 2030? Yes. I think you're going to have a point. The streaming war is kind of almost over. What's going to happen now is the fallout from it. And there's only going to be about a handful of these that are going to continue on being the juggernauts that they are. And only a few more that are going to be also ran or boutique kind of streaming services. But Netflix is probably going to be one of them because, as we've said before, the short version of this I can say is that a lot of these studios decided to start their own streaming services because they saw how much money they were making from Netflix without realizing that if they do that themselves, they have to deal with all the overhead and they're not going to have all the extra secondary market income that they were seeing before. So a lot of them, as you see, are reversing their place in this whole situation. And in the front of that is Zaslav and their team over at Discovery Warner.
Yeah. Honestly, the winners of the streaming war are those that didn't engage with it and simply outsourced to Netflix.
Exactly. To be honest with you, Andre's right. Sony was one of the better ends of the deal where they decided, you know what? We're not getting involved in this. We've been involved in too many wars in the past to see how this ends. We're going to sit on the sideline and we'll just see what happens. That's kind of what they did.
And it was a good choice.
They sold all their original programming from Crackle to Netflix, and
yeah,
they went the opposite direction when everybody else was going the other way. So, but in the end of this, I think it's going to be like Netflix, HBO Max, Amazon Prime, obviously, as the top tier, and maybe Disney Plus will hang on because they have Hulu and stuff. And then other than that, it's just going to be also ran shit.
Exactly. Moving on.
Steven Simmons, who says, good example of what live action She-Hulk could be is the AEW's Jade Cargill. She did a She-Hulk look for PPV and looked amazing in my opinion. Not familiar with this, but I'm assuming AEW. What's that?
That's a
That's some wrestling thing.
That's what I was thinking. Something like that. Yeah, and pay-per-view. Obviously, I know what that is. Okay, there you go. Well, and that's the thing is they could have went the Lou Ferrigno kind of route with this, but obviously it's a little late for that.
Too late now, but that may have been the better choice.
Then Joel Rise, he upgraded his membership. He was having some fun with us in the chat there. Thank you for that, Joel.
Nice.
We got Magitech Mags who says tip for Paulie and his hat.
We shall make sure he gets it.
Thank you for that. Burst Angel says, you guys don't understand. In order to get Tolkien right, you need to capture the Catholic theological undercurrent of his work. His work is medieval literature at its core.
This is a good point.
It's all these things. And it's also a English mythology as well.
Exactly. And that's why you can't have any Gandhi Tarkovsky or anyone who's about like the more Robert E. Howard side of things, because they won't get that particular bit will elude them.
Yeah, exactly.
So you need a specific type.
Elf says, I'm surprised Michael Bay hasn't canceled his everything the woke hate is America still shill is an obnoxious focused on women's bodies. He's on they've tried
of note. I mean, if he had released like first Transformers or first Bad Boys today in this atmosphere, that would not have gone so well. But I think the cancel mob just never got to him.
To be honest, I think that's why they didn't let him direct Bad Boys 3.
Probably.
He's in it,
yeah,
and he produces it, but to me, it feels like there was probably this meeting where they're like, yeah, we can't let you direct this.
Yeah, probably.
Well, they also probably thought, after all those Transformers films and the degrading returns, we really shouldn't be letting you direct this.
There's that, but do you really think they're that smart?
I'm sure that's the other part too. Like, are they clever enough to connect?
I would go with the woke angle first.
Well, they are. I will give them credit. They are capable of seeing diminishing returns in a franchise that they.
Yeah, but the fact that he's still in the movie and a producer and all that shit tells me that there was.
That might be a contract thing with regards to the fact that he was there from the beginning. Like, I'm pretty sure if you were to do a sequel to Con Air right now, his name would be attached, even if you never talked to him.
No, but he actually had like an on-screen cameo in the movie, is what I'm saying. So he clearly was playing nice with them for some reason, whatever it was. Have you guys seen Bad Boys 3? Because it's actually one of the better. It's actually pretty good.
Remember it.
Moving on.
Evidently not. Denny Villeneuve, he's not much of a showrunner, maybe a visual stylist, but
yeah, he's not what you want for Lord of the Rings. There's nothing he has said to make me suggest that he would kind of like get the fundamentals of.
He's wrapped up in Dune anyway.
Yeah, he's busy with that, and I think he can. That's more fit with his talents than something like. It's too talkative. Lord of the Rings is too talkative for him.
And we got all these here in a row, so I'm just going to bring them back up on screen again. But then Waddle These Nuts said Monty Python's Rings of Power.
It
would be so glorious if it would be. Like, that would be watchable. You know, that feels like, and it feels like in an alternate universe, at some place we did get a Monty Python Lord of the Rings parody. But we missed out on it. Yeah. George the Giant Slayer also gifted, holy crap, 10 Midnight's Edge memberships. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
To Mecha J, David Rayner, Glade Riven, Wade Chadwick, Luke Carl. This is one I always mess up. Carlowicz, thank you. Yep. Dragon Bricks, Siege Perilous, Xanaphine Sherifoon, and Marilla Newworth. Thank you so much, George, for your generous donation. Yes, then we got Darius, who says, how about Elizabeth Debicki from Widows? As far as the casting goes, maybe.
Yeah,
I'm
maybe.
not familiar, but
yeah, she wouldn't be too bad.
You guys seem like almost any choice would be better, it seems like. Then Big Daddy MRI also gifted 5 more memberships. Awesome sauce to Juan Carlos Gonzalez Jr., Richard Harris, Freddie York, Daniel Hall, and Dave Bob. Dave Bob! I say Dave Bob got himself a membership. STR Red Wolf says, I pulled up Amazon Prime Video and Lord of the Rings Rings of Power is first on the banner, so it's probably burning through members. Could be. It could also be since that I watched it and I quit watching it, they're just going to quit pushing it on me.
Who knows? I mean, it's difficult to say based on
Could be.
circumstantial evidence.
Exactly. Aaron Pipe says the Tolkien heirs are extremely short-sighted. They may get paid now, but 5 years from now, the IP cash value will be half-ass or less, or half or
Yeah,
less.
but they'll have $1 million each now.
They don't
That's
care.
all they care about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly,
that's
they're
smartly.
probably not even the ones making these choices. It's probably underneath some kind of firm by now, is what I would imagine.
Yeah.
And they're the ones actually handling
Because
that.
they don't care about the cash value of the IP. If they can get like a huge payday now, if they can get like $1, $5, $10 million each, they'd rather have that than see the IP value decline a bit in 5 years from now. What's that going to do for them? And that's in the future. And that's going to matter for them if they get 10 millions cash here and now.
Honestly, the only reason I believe they may have not sold the entire thing lock, stock, and barrel at this point for some big, huge amount is probably because there's stipulations in Tolkien's will, and it's not worth as much as the other rights that Salzants sold to Embracer.
No, exactly. I mean, those are the valuable ones. I mean, what you have left are the book rights, and in a Hollywood sense, they're not worth anything.
No, they don't care about reprinting books.
Yeah, exactly.
Not unless there's a movie attached to it, and even then, that's not where the money's at. So yeah. And then we had a member chat from Thorin Volomika, if I'm saying that right. Party Pucks member for 2 months, both at the Midnighter level. Oh, okay. So we had Party Pucks and Thorin Volomika, who's been a member for 8 months and 2 months. Thank you so much for that. And then we have Anthony Monahan, who says, what are the panel views on The Sopranos? You know, that was one of those shows that I have not gotten to yet. It just was on my list and I never got to it.
Oh, I found it quite funnier than serious drama, but that was.
It's one of those shows that everybody says I got to see though because I love The Godfather so much.
Well, I mean, it's not The Godfather, but it's a good mob show.
Yeah, and I actually never saw it because by the time I was going to get into it, it ended, and I know the ending, and there was too many other really cool stuff, so I just never got into it. Never seen it. But I'm a huge fan of The Shield, huge fan of Oz, other like HBO stuff at the time. So yeah, I'm sure
I've seen tons and tons of clips and references to it and things of that sort.
Yeah, but moving on.
That's it.
Oh.
So yeah, sorry that we don't have anything more to say, but Scripps is the one who's seen it. So yeah,
I recommend it. I'll put it that way.
All right. Well, with that, we have caught up on the super chats, and let's wrap things up.
Have we?
I'm pretty sure we have.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looks
So,
like we have.
Okay. Anyway, the only other thing I wanted to bring up, but we're running low on time, was the whole Jennifer Lawrence business. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Well, I think we can get back into that on Friday.
Yeah, we can probably save that. So yeah, you got anything coming up, Script Doctor?
Just follow me on Twitter, see where I'll end up, and yeah, thanks for having me on here. It's been a blast.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being here.
Thank
you for Paul as well for being here, and Paulie for showing up for a little bit. Yes, well, there should be a 4K for you this afternoon, so stay tuned for that. Other than that, take care of yourselves and each other, and it's time for
some koalas in the rain.
If I can find him. Where's that wet koala? There he is.
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain. No fucks given, koalas